happy to be a part of the family. I know Boston has a lot of history, a lot of tradition, and I want to add to that. I know it's a playoff team, so I love playoff basketball, and I can't wait to win. Boston's a great city, full of culture, full of life, education, things that mean a lot to me. So I'm super excited. I cannot wait to get there and can't wait to get everything started. Can't wait for the season to start, and I'm happy to be a part of the family.
Jaylen Brown on the inbound to Al Horford, now in the hands of Isaiah. He's going to drive on Jeremy Lin, ducks the shoulder, stumbles, finds Jaylen Brown, knifes through two men, and scores off the glass. Welcome to the NBA, Jaylen Brown.
That's what you want as a rookie. You want your first shot to be a layup opportunity.
Larkin going slowly with the right-hand dribble. Now attacks Rubio. Over the shoulder pass. Ojale swings out to Jaylen Brown. Three in the air for the game. Got it! He got it! Jaylen Brown goes crashing to the ground as the Celtics get a three with 1/10 of a second remaining.
This puppy's over.
Trying to get it to Jaylen.
They're making sure he doesn't get this basketball.
Trying to keep it away. Now Jaylen, left-hand dribble drive, pulls up at the dotted line, floats it up. It rattles home, and Jaylen Brown has his 50-point game against Kawhi and the Clippers in L.A. 133 to 109.
You know, I just felt like just for everybody, things was just about to shift. You know, certain times of the year, it actually was a retrograde, which means like planets were spinning in the opposite direction. I know at that moment, the energy was about to change, so I tweeted it out, and we went on a win streak.
Do the Pacers try and foul off the inbound? Holiday's got it. No timeouts. He's got to get it in. Throws to the corner. Jaylen forces it up over C. He tied it. He did it. Jaylen Brown from the corner with 5.6 to go. Jaylen Brown, 13 points in the quarter. Switches to the left hand. Jaylen drives right down the middle. Flies over Green. Throws it down with the right hand and puts a signature punctuation mark on a dominant third quarter.
The 2024 Bill Russell Finals MVP goes to Jaylen Brown.
It was a full team effort, and I shared this with my brothers and my partner in crime, Jason Tatum. He was with me the whole way, so we shared it together.
And now that man no longer a Boston Celtic. How we doing, Boston? It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray tonight with you for the next 4 hours. And we will be talking about mostly Jaylen Brown, as you heard right there. That montage put together by the great Jeremy Connolly to set the stage for tonight's program. It's been about a little over 24 hours since the trade went down. Still a lot of questions that are left unanswered. Some might never get answered. But I want to talk about this in the big picture tonight. We will have Bobby Krivitsky joining us later in the program from Forbes to talk about this from the Celtics point of view. We also have Adam Aronson from the Philadelphia Voice. He covers the Sixers. I'm curious to get kind of the Sixers side of how this all went down. But I want to start with, just as I've sat with this for a day now, I have some big picture questions about how this happened, about why this happened. I'm sure you guys out there have questions as well. 617-779-0985. As you guys call in, we'll get to you early and often, as much as you keep the phone lines full tonight, because I think this is the kind of story where you really have to take this tone of the city as you go. And I want to hear from you guys. I do want to start with, though, again, these big picture pending questions that I have. And the deal's not yet official. That can't happen till next week. So maybe Brad Stevens answers some of these when he eventually talks, which I would assume is going to happen next week. Maybe he doesn't. Question number one. Not just why did this have to happen? I think there are a couple of theories to that, and it's probably a combination of a few of them. It's been reported Brown did not ask out of Boston, but was frustrated by the way this has all been handled going back to the attempted Giannis trade. Understand that. There's the financial implications, which we'll get to, right or wrong, whether you think that's a justifiable reason for trading him or not. It does seem to be that was at least part of their motivation. Again, whether that should or shouldn't motivate them, I do think it is something that did, right or wrong. But not so much, I've come to terms with, although I disagree with a lot of it, I've come to terms with the why this happened. What I haven't had explained to me is why this had to happen right now. Why did this have to happen? And I don't just mean on July 1st. Why did this have to happen this offseason? Because if you look at a lot of the reporting that's come out today, had they done this earlier and done this later, they might have gotten a better return. They might have sold here at the bottom of Jaylen Brown's value, which is crazy for a guy that just had a career year. But based off some of the reporting that's come out today, that might have been the case. So why did this have to happen right now? 2, what does this mean for Jason Tatum's window? Part of the reason I'm frustrated by this, and some of these questions come in response to the defenses I've seen of the trade in the last 24 hours. And a big one you see is, well, they now have more flexibility to build a team moving forward, which, frankly, I don't disagree with. And I've seen some people compare this to the Nets trade, which was probably, about 10, 12 years ago? Oh, no, I was in college. It's earlier than that. About 10, 11, 12 years ago. But here's the thing. Paul Pierce was well into his 30s. Kevin Garnett was well into his 30s and banged up. Jason Tatum is 28. He is entering what should be his prime. And the only reason I throw the qualifier on it is the Achilles injury. Does he need another year to get back? But you should, in theory, over the next 3 years, get the best version of Jason Tatum that you are ever going to get. Why are they building the team now? Well, they got to tear it down so they could put more pieces around Jason Tatum. Hopefully they could take these pieces and flip them and get a top 20 player. Like Jaylen Brown? Skaz, I don't know if and Skaz is here tonight. No, Joe, we got Skaz. I don't know if you're familiar with the Family Guy bit, the mystery box or the boat. I was hammering this the other night. I'm going to bring it back again tonight. Well, the picks they got and the financial flexibility could be anything. It could even be a player like Jaylen Brown. You know how much the Celtics have wanted a player like that. This is my version of the wouldn't it be nice if we could get players like that, I guess. But I don't know if you're familiar with the mystery box there, Skaz, or you
yes.
out there listening if you heard me the other night.
I feel like it's an Alex Barth staple at this point.
It has become one. Intern Derek, if you're familiar with that, you're going to hear a lot about the mystery box of the boat tonight because the Celtics went all in for that pair of comedy club tickets. So that's question 2. What is the plan for the future? And we might have gotten an answer to this right before he came on the air. This was Shams Charania. I think this was this afternoon, I believe, late this afternoon, but since the trade on what's next, or maybe more importantly, what isn't next for the Celtics, Skaz.
I'm told there was not a secondary move lined up with this Jaylen Brown trade where they got Paul George. So they're obviously taking on already a negative contract with Paul George with draft assets. So we'll see what else they can muster up.
No plan. No plan for you. They're going to take this and flip it for Trey Murphy. They're going to take this and flip it for this guy, for that guy. Maybe they will. This wasn't some master plan, though. They got to get that second part done. They didn't have the second part done. So that's question 2. And that kind of leads into question 3. Because, again, this comes back to me. Jason Tatum is in his prime. If they'd made this trade in 5 years, when they're both in their 30s, fine. It sucks to see superstars leave like that, but if it's a Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett type scenario, we're going to move on a little too early versus a little too late, so we actually get something worth it return to help kick off the next era. You can sell me on that. You can definitely sell me on that. Not when neither guy is 30 yet. Not when Jason Tatum is 28, which gets to my third question. If they couldn't flip Jaylen Brown, we all agree, I think, the Celtics got worse. I'm not buying in on the Paul George thing. Yeah, he was okay last year. He can still score. He can still play a little bit of defense. You could take your analytics and shove them. I'm not an analytics guy. I never have been. I'm not starting now. Eye test, baby. I know what I saw. It's not to say Paul George sucks, but the Celtics got worse. If they could not trade Jaylen Brown for something better, how are they going to do that now? Are Paul George and these picks And maybe you don't. There was a reporting today that the Celtics would have to attach a pick to get rid of Paul George. Get something. But are they in a position better now? Are they in a better position now? Do you feel like they have the ammunition now to make the kind of trade that makes the roster better that they couldn't make with Jaylen Brown on the roster? I get his contract might have been a bit of an albatross. We'll get to that. But I still think he was worth more than what they have now. They sold low. As crazy as that sounds. And maybe we should have expected that more, given the way the cap works. And I have some thoughts on that. There's a lot to get to tonight. But do they have the assets to get better now than they were before this trade? In the short term, in Jason Tatum's prime, I'm talking about in the next 3 years. I don't think they do. So I go back to question one. Did this have to be done right now? Could they have waited till the trade deadline? Could they have waited till next offseason? I know Jaylen Brown was eligible for an extension. He probably wants it. Is he going to hold out? Is he just not going to play? Could you have signed it and traded him on the extension if you were going to move him anyway? For that one extra year of financial flexibility they got when Jason Tatum will be in his 30s? I think that, guys, what is it? The 2031 pick doesn't convey till Tatum's 22, 23? Forget about it. They need to be at their best right now. Oh, they have so much more flexibility for team building. They had a team built. They had a team built at the exact window you want it built. And I know the penalties from, well, they can't. It hurts their team building because the penalties from the tax, it's not the money. They had the team built. If Brad Stevens is the great GM, we all, myself included, believed him to be, he can figure it out on the margins. Or then you trade for Giannis. So you stay competitive in Tatum's contention window. That's what's going to bug me. Again, write to you, 617-779-0985. I already see a line up on the phones. We do have a couple lines open if you want to react to this trade. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray, taking up until 11 o'clock on the Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.5. You're listening to Joe Murray.
late July. The fact that they just traded him right now, that's all the indication anyone needs about whether they were actually going to ever offer him that extension. No one around the NBA, though, could have seen Jaylen Brown being traded at the age of 30 years old to an in-division Eastern Conference rival like this for a player 6 years older and some draft assets. I do have to say this. The Celtics tonight believe this was the best offer that they were going to get. But I reported it earlier today. They were full-blown shopping Jaylen Brown around the league the last few days, trying to double back to teams that might not have wanted to give 3, 4, 5 first. Hey, what is your best offer now? What can you give us? Some teams felt like the Celtics were honestly yearning to make a deal today. And this is a player that has 3 seasons left on his contract. And so to be able to acquire him at this level, at the age of 30 years old with 3 years left on his deal, it did send shockwaves around the NBA.
Yeah, shockwaves. Understatement there from Shams as we react to the Jaylen Brown trade. And I go back to, again, I have 3 questions. Why did this have to happen right now? They clearly wanted to trade him. Why right now? And did they hurt themselves by doing it right now instead of waiting until some more term came off that deal, or even doing it last year and kind of bottoming out if they knew they weren't going to build around him and Tatum, helping themselves out last year, which was now a complete and total waste? Why not right now? Question 2. What are their plans to maximize Jason Tatum's contention window? The average peak of an NBA player is between 28 and 31 years old. Jason Tatum is going into his age 28 season. They should be peaking right now, not rebuilding. And we played you the Shams cut earlier. No plan right now. And when I say no plan, I don't mean to do nothing. The report was the Celtics did not make this trade with a secondary move in mind. So the idea that, well, you know, the Galaxy brained it. They got these assets and they're getting ready to flip them. Nope. Not happening. In question 3, which I guess relates to that, if they couldn't get more for Jaylen Brown now, or if they couldn't get more for Jaylen Brown, are they actually in a better position right now, yes or no? Is what they got back worth more? Is what they got back going to help them get back more than just keeping Jaylen Brown for a year or 2? And what's frustrating is, if they'd held out, maybe they could have helped their case. Skaz, let's hear this from Shams today as well.
Sixers new president, Mike Gansey, reached out to the Celtics, made offers in recent weeks. It's been quite some time where these talks seem to have a level of traction because the Celtics has such a high bar on a deal, right? They were thinking, if you're going to trade us Paul George, we need 4 firsts, 5 firsts. We need a player like a VJ Edgecombe. That was the bar that was set early. So there were other teams around the league that might have stopped conversations or moved on to do other deals, but the Sixers stayed with it. Stood around, stayed at the party. They didn't have Irish goodbye. They didn't leave early. They stuck around. And at the end of it, they were the last team standing today. So staying engaged, staying with it, that paid dividends for the Sixers. Now, when you think about it, and Perk makes that point, when you can get a 30-year-old player who's probably got 4 to 6 years left in his prime, potentially at this level, with a 20s Tyrese Maxey, with a 20s VJ Edgecombe, that is scary for the rest of the Eastern Conference.
Oh, and by the way, they might also get LeBron, but we'll get to that later. Skaz, should the Celtics have held out and waited for more? Should they have held firmer on that line?
No, I don't think so. I think you could make the argument they should have tried to trade him sooner. I think draft night probably would have been the best opportunity if they were going to do that. But, I mean, am I supposed to believe Shams? Am I supposed to believe a guy who's the number 1 insider in the sport who never sniffed the 76ers? These conversations were going on for weeks, you're telling me, Shams. Well, you haven't reported it. No one actually reported it at all. So, I mean, I don't think anyone knows anything about what really went on with this trade because nobody sniffed it. Nobody was even remotely close on this one. And just to go back to your first point on the timing. Why now with the timing? And look, I think we're going to do a lot of speculating because that's all we really can do. We're guessing. Right. None of this really makes a ton of sense as of today, as of right now, and it might not for some time. But, we're 24 plus hours removed at this point. I think the timing, the more I think about it, we viewed this season as kind of Jaylen Brown's audition, to the league. The Celtics viewed it as his audition to them, and what his true value was, what his, I guess his analytics looked like, when more was on his plate, and the Celtics didn't like the results. The Celtics don't value Jaylen Brown, the basketball player. They did not want Jaylen Brown, the basketball player, on their team, and I don't really know how you could argue that.
But so I agree with you. But I would say if that's what happened, they saw him with a larger workload and said, he's not that guy, so we're going to trade him. Isn't that isn't that a fail in the logic? Because the whole reason, this whole thing about Jaylen Brown was more valuable to the Celtics than anybody else. The analytics maybe bear that out, but you're not keeping Jaylen Brown here to be the guy unless there was a directive that they had to move one of the max contracts and they had to choose Brown or Tatum, in which case they made the right choice, and we can direct that, if that ever comes out, then you direct the questions to ownership, which is beyond fair if that was the directive. But to look at last year and say, well, suddenly Jaylen Brown had a lot more on his plate and he wasn't as good, so we need to trade him. Isn't the whole point moving forward that he's not going to have that much on his plate again? We know what he looks like as the second guy. I say this as somebody who for a long time thought Jaylen Brown was a little too overrated in this city. I think people that put Tatum and Brown on the same tier, on the same level, were drinking the green Kool-Aid a little bit. It's Jason Tatum's team. If not for the Achilles injury, it might still be Jason Tatum's league. Tatum's that guy. But as far as a 1B, I won't call him a 2, but as far as a 1B, Jaylen Brown is excellent. But judge him as the 1B. If that's the reason they did it, or that's how they're going to excuse it because they wanted to get out from under the contract, that's not a good sign for the direction of the organization. If it's, well, yeah, we saw him as a number 1 and we didn't like it, but he's not a number 1 here. And that's what allowed you to be special. That's what allowed you to win all those games, to make these runs in the playoffs before the coach got in the way, which is another issue we can get to. But, Skaz, I don't mean to yell at you or pick on you.
No, please.
I do think this is what they're doing to justify it. But I think that their logic behind it is wrong because they need to find a way to justify a bad decision. Saying Jaylen Brown isn't good enough to be a 1, so we're going to move on from him as our 2, doesn't make sense. Unless it's about something else.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense, and maybe that's a little too, short-sighted in viewing it that way. But I do think it has something to do with the numbers that he put up this year. And fans will say, "Well, he put up great numbers this year," and he did. But if you look under the hood at the analytics, all this stuff, his on-off splits were not good.
Guys, the baseball hour ended half an hour ago. What are we doing?
You're telling me, Barth, this is not a world I voluntarily live in, but it is the one we are in. So that's where we're at, and I think those numbers are hard to ignore if that is something that you're heavily invested in, and the Celtics seem to be heavily invested in that. And
is that a good thing?
We're going to find out in short order, which I think is kind of rare. It's a very polite way
to say no.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't think they're done yet. In a vacuum, their offseason, Jaylen Brown and Nikola Vucevic out.
Yeah.
Mitchell Robinson, Paul George, Mike Conley, and those picks in.
It's a sick offseason in 2019, by the way.
Exactly. Great offseason in 2019. I think in a vacuum, those moves are a lot closer than just, Jaylen Brown leaving this team. I think your roster is still fine in the regular season, but I have no idea who's scoring for you in the playoffs. And I also just think the overall, overarching point of this whole thing where you're saying you're basically abandoning Jason Tatum's prime, that can't be overstated. The number one thing you should do in the NBA is build around a superstar that is, between the ages of, 27 and 33.
And how old's Jason Tatum?
Right in that sweet
28.
spot. So, yeah, I'm 1,000% with you on that. It's like, in the NFL taking advantage of the rookie quarterback because we are allowed to cross sports here at night. So I'm with you. I think it's a wild swing, but I have to believe that they have some sort of plan. And I know Shams is reporting they're not, but I'm going to choose to not believe Shams on this one.
I will allow you to do that. I think you're going to end up let down, but I'll let you kind of... What are...
I'm in denial, Barth.
I was sending this to a Celtics friend of mine who was broken up earlier, the 7 stages of grief. He was in stage 4. He was in bargaining.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to be in bargaining for months if you want me to be honest.
Although, no, just saying, like, nope, they have a plan. That sounds like denial.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. We're going to go through one through 7.
It's not linear,
times.
right? Look, I went through them when Brady left. I wrote something about that on 98.5. It's probably still up there.
If people comparing this to Mookie Betts, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as Mookie Betts.
I think it's worse than Mookie Betts.
Mookie Betts is so much better than Jaylen Brown.
Mookie Betts is a better player, but when you look at baseball and basketball are different. The value of a star is more. I think in theory, the Mookie Betts return was better. Obviously, that didn't work out. Alex Verdugo was 24 when the Sox got him, 24, 25. He certainly wasn't 36 with bad knees.
Yeah, but he sucked at baseball.
But the idea was he had upside. Do you have any hope that Paul George is going to get better?
No,
are we saying like maybe Paul George will figure out his game?
I hope he's back on steroids. That's what I hope.
Right.
He better still be on steroids. If we get non-steroids Paul George, I'll be even angrier.
So that's like, and knowing what we know now, the Mookie Betts return sucked. But like at the time, and I think Jeter Downs was a top 100 prospect.
Oh, Jeter Downs. How could we forget?
It didn't work.
Connor Wong, still here.
But I put it behind Babe Ruth. I still think it's behind Babe Ruth. But the motivation might be similar. After that, we can debate it. The Red Sox ones are weird. Like, John Lester killed me. The John Lester trade was the first time I had that moment that was like, oh, my team, I'm not just going to blindly accept everything my teams do. My teams can screw up. But they had to trade him because they ran him out. The Red Sox had to trade Mookie Betts because he was not re-upping here. We can talk about the relationship between the Celtics and Jaylen Brown, but from a lot that's out there, was it perfect? No. Was it untenable? I also don't think that was the case. I think they could have kept him. I think they could have made it work. So it's a little different. I want to go back to one other thing you said before we hit the headlines here, and then we'll come back and take your calls. 617-779-0985. Are they going to be fine in the regular season? Yes, absolutely. They'll win 50 games. They'll be a top 3 seed. Maybe 55 if we get Paul Roids. Steroid P, whatever we want to call it. We'll come up with something. I don't care. I don't care. This organization, the Celtics, with a player like Jason Tatum, having a player like Jaylen Brown, it's what you do in the postseason. And when their postseason exits have been as bad as they've been, I'm sorry, you don't get credit for the regular season. Is it fair? No, but it's a result-based industry. Especially, remember when they took that victory lap last year? Everybody called it bridge year, gap year, whatever you called it, because it was one. Was more of one than we knew, apparently.
House money, I think.
House money, that's right. And they took that victory lap only to choke and gag and puke in the playoffs.
Led by who?
What was led by who?
They're choking in the playoffs.
The coach.
On the court.
I mean, everybody. Are you getting at that was Jaylen Brown?
I would say he was supposed to be the best player on the team.
I still mostly blame Missoula, but...
Sure, but Jaylen Brown isn't being held at hostage during the game to shoot threes either.
It takes a lot to defy the coach.
For Jaylen Brown...
He should have done it, but it takes a lot to defy the coach. We can get into that. We're a little behind. We can get into that. I'll just say this.
It's the Joe Show, Barth. Don't you even look at that
Fair
clock.
enough.
What are you doing?
I better not see any sort... They could win 65 games this year. I better not see any kind of victory lap on the regular season. Doesn't mean a freaking thing.
What if they're better than Philly, though, Barth?
Be better than them in the playoffs. Then you can do it. You beat Jaylen Brown. You take Jaylen Brown and Maxey and Edgecombe and Embiid and maybe LeBron out in a playoff series. You can dance all you want.
All right, enough with LeBron to Philly.
You can throw the finger in my face all you want.
I can't do it.
If you do that. Well, they took 3 of 4 from Philly in the regular season. They won 2 or 3 more games. Doesn't mean jack. That's not going to mean jack. 617-779-0985. You want to weigh in on, I promise, to your calls after this. But first, a check of the headlines here. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray.
Sports Hub headlines.
We're still in the fallout of the Jaylen Brown trade after the Celtics sent him to the Sixers last night for Paul George, 2 first and 2 second-round picks.
I'm not, as you guys know, not really coherent. And I'm like, where'd he go? And she's like, to Philly for Paul George and 2 first-round picks. And I'm like, I think I'm dead. I think I died. Anesthesia killed me, and now I'm a dead person. And I'm like, and I'm just trying to process it. And it's like I have a head injury. And I'm like, are there more first-round picks? Did they get the Clippers first? And she's like, Zoe's really upset. So now my daughter, who likes Jaylen Brown, and I'm like, all right, can you read me what the trade is? And she reads me the trade, and then I stumble out of this hospital place. So when this trade happened at 3:20 Pacific time, I had a camera in my ass, and I had Paul.
Cut that a little early. I think you can see where he was going with. That was Bill Simmons' reaction to the trade. Much awaited reaction to the trade. How about your reaction? 617-779-0985. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray. If you want to join us, let's start off with Justin and Lynn. Justin, what's up, man?
Hey, Alex, it's Justin. I just want to tell you, I didn't get this back last night, but I want to tell you, in terms of what they got back, a first-round pick, a second-round pick, and a third-round pick, whatever it was, I think it's the worst trade in Celtic history, and I think this was driven by ownership. I just wanted your thoughts.
Yeah, Justin, look, whether or not it was driven by ownership, this is something, you don't trade that player without ownership signing off. So at the very least, ownership was okay with it. Best case scenario, to Skaz's point, the Celtics saw the analytics, didn't like where Jaylen Brown was at, wanted to move him. Ownership saw an opportunity to make things a little easier financially and said, yeah, go ahead. The worst case scenario is the reverse. Ownership saw a way to open up some money, get out from under a big contract, and now the basketball people have to justify moving on from him. And that's where you're getting this push from the analytics. And that he was, what was the quote from Coward, a disease? With the way he was, I think it was disease, which is just wrong. With they didn't like his streaming. Look, I didn't like his streaming either. And this is what it was from Colin Coward. I had 2 NBA sources, 2 people in the league, one an executive, one a scout, say that Jaylen Brown it's a disease. He suddenly thinks he's the smartest guy in every room he's in. You make a lot of money. Suddenly you're absolutely sure you don't want to listen to your bosses. You don't want to listen to consultants. You don't want to listen to teammates. I didn't love some of the stuff Jaylen Brown did. I thought the Twitch streaming was too much, admittedly. Especially that one after they lost. For sure. But that you put up with that for talent. I'm going to cross sports again. I said this with Diggs last year. Everybody's worried about, well, is he too big of a personality? With A.J. Brown. Oh, he's going to be a pain in the ass. If you're a pain in the ass and you can't play, yeah, get out. A lot of the really, really, really good athletes are kind of nuts. I said this a lot during the Patriots' pursuit of wide receiver. They don't make them like Larry Fitzgerald anymore. This applies to all sports. Tatum is probably in the vast minority for being a guy that he is not. It's just kind of basketball with him. He doesn't get too high, too low. You don't really hear him in the media. You're not worried about where his focus is. But again, if a guy can play and he shows up and he performs, I have no problem with it. If it starts impacting your performance, that becomes another conversation. I'm not an analytics guy. I don't think it ever impacted Jaylen Brown's performance. Maybe it impacted the way he was viewed in the room. But also, could the Celtics try to tell him to cut it out? Maybe that wouldn't have gone over great. But so then what? You end up having to trade him for pennies on the dollar? Oh, what a shame that would be. So I would have put up with it. But I do, ownership one way or another is involved. We can debate the extent. That's I had my questions earlier. It's another question we could add. Was this a basketball move greenlit by ownership? Or was it an ownership decision, wow, getaway day, that now has to be justified by the basketball people? I've mentioned a couple times tonight there is some buzz that the Sixers could be interested in LeBron James. Bob in Boston has another idea. Bob.
Hey. I just want to tell you guys, I want to give you, you can hear me?
I got you.
Okay. I'll give you guys the first chance to be the first sports outlet in America, maybe the world, to see the entire picture being painted here.
Hit me with it, Bob.
And the first question would be, who is one of Paul George's best friends?
Would that be LeBron James?
That would be LeBron James. They're very tight. And in my opinion, LeBron would love nothing more than to come here, win a championship with Paul George. And, of course, they brought in Robinson. Yep. And it looks like they're trying to pull a team. You think about it. So now it's no longer just Jaylen Brown for one guy. It's Jaylen Brown for two guys who he's going to play for short money. And I think that looks like a memorable team.
Bob, I got two questions for you. One, do you think the Celtics are LeBron's best path to win a ring in his last year?
It would be if he plays with Tatum. Absolutely.
And two,
where's he going to go? Oklahoma City?
Oklahoma City, San Antonio, Philly, Miami. Also, do you actually believe it? I'm trying to remember exactly what you said. There's nothing LeBron would want more than winning a ring in Boston?
Wanting to win a ring with his best buddy, Paul George. Yes, it's priceless. And money isn't worth it anymore. He's already made his.
Well, he's gonna sign for a little money. And thanks for the call, Bob. I appreciate it. That gives us some stuff to talk about. Where do you want to begin, Skaz?
Oh, boy. I got bad news for Bob. LeBron and Paul George are not best friends.
I was going to say that. Where'd that come from?
In fact, Paul George referenced his close relationship to Joel Embiid and why he ended up in Philadelphia in the first place. And just a quick scroll of Paul George's social medias. It appears Reggie Jackson, Karl Anthony Towns, and Russell Westbrook are his closest friends in the league.
Well, because he was at the white. Were they all at the white party?
There's just inklings of their long-standing friendship. But also, I would say, how old's LeBron? Is it 40 something?
41.
How old's Paul George? He's getting up there.
36.
I'd say they've both been in the NBA for a while.
And they both tend to change teams.
To control his roster for, say, I don't know, 20 straight years. I would have to have imagined that at some point, if they were friendly, even remotely, maybe they would have played together, I don't know, in their primes, not as the fourth and fifth option in Boston, of all places. So, Bob, I hope you enjoy your fourth, but no.
Bob's already gotten going on the fourth. Whatever he's got going on, he's ready to party. Skaz, for everything you just said, the most ridiculous part of that might have been there's nothing more that LeBron James wants than to win a title in Boston, a city and a team that he has historically been very critical of. Do you have any interest in the Celtics making that call?
Sure, I have interest, but why would he want to come here?
Yeah, I don't see it. Maybe if Jaylen Brown was still here.
If I'm LeBron, I'm going to, Golden State,
Miami, Philly, sure. San Antonio,
even
OKC.
Cleveland.
Even Cleveland. Cleveland would not be a bad option for him. Because that was the reporting before Brown got traded, is they were going to trade for Jaylen Brown to try to drag him to Cleveland, back to Cleveland, which is where I think he ends up. Like, he wants to make a documentary series about it. It's going to be the full circle, him going back home, yada, yada, yada.
Barth, a small piece of breaking news here. Jaylen Brown tweeted 1 minute ago he will be live on Twitch at 8 p.m.
Oh, boy.
So we'll monitor that
Let's
closely.
roll on that.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if we'll be able to play it, but yeah, we will roll for sure.
We'll just get the beeps ready. If we don't play it right away, we don't play it right away. But Jaylen Brown will be live. Probably could have hit sounder for that.
Nah, a Twitch stream. Come on,
Jaylen Brown post trade.
Nah,
I'm pretty aggressive with sounder. That's probably not it, but I'm pretty aggressive with sounder. 617-779-0985 if you want to weigh in on any and all of it. I wanted to do some stuff there about the Celtics and, looking back at the last couple of weeks. And was there a misstep in the last couple of weeks? We'll do that on the other side, plus your calls. Long commercial-free segment is next. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
Don't go anywhere. There's more Joe Murray. On the way on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Miller time. It only happens if you make it happen.
direction the organization coming up at 8:20. Your calls as well. I see you guys still lined up. 617-779-0985. Take care in a second. But first, I got to let you know that when we were scrambling to find the log earlier, that headline was brought to you by John Sewer and Drain Cleaning. 24-hour on-call service for your clog drain emergencies. Go to johnsewer.com. All right, right back to the phones as we continue to react to the Celtics trading Jaylen Brown. Evan, whoever the intern is, gave me the city, the province, and the country. Very detailed. Evan in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, on the Jaylen Brown trade. Evan, how you doing?
Very astute. Good work on him. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
So the original ask from Brad for Brown was Paul George, Edgecombe, and 5 first-round picks.
4 or 5 was the report, yeah.
If Philadelphia came back and said no, that for Tatum, I want to gauge how you guys all would feel about that.
Ooh. Good question, Evan. Thanks for the call. Skaz? No, we won't give you 5 first-round picks in Edgecombe for Jaylen Brown, but we will do it for Jason Tatum.
No, because those first-round picks become pretty useless when Jason Tatum is on the other side for the next decade, I would say.
Yeah, I'm out on that.
And VJ Edgecombe and Jaylen Brown are not redundant at all.
But let me expand it too. Let's say this was a mandate, because I've seen this take out there today. I know I'm not coming up with this, but I haven't gotten a chance to discuss it yet. If this was really a mandate from ownership, we got to get under the apron, tax, all of it. We don't want to be tied to 2 supermax contracts long term. Should they have given more to get more? Should they have given Tatum and really reset? Or was it right to move Brown for nothing?
Yeah, I think nothing is a little strong. Paul George doesn't suck, as many people would like you to believe. Not that I'm going to sit here and tell you Paul George is equal to Jaylen Brown, because he is not. But I don't think the Celtics are much worse today than they were at the end of last season.
I think there's a potential for them to be significantly worse. I mean, you're banking on a 36-year-old coming off a PED suspension, fitting into a new system, all of that.
Yeah, but take him out of it. You have the same Celtics roster as last year, but with a healthy Jason Tatum instead of Jaylen Brown.
I hate that reasoning because you could have both.
Yeah, absolutely, but you don't.
Fair.
So they're not going to suck. They're not
going to suck. No, they're not going to suck in the regular season. Again, I said this before. I'll keep saying it. I really don't care what they do in the regular season. They can only lose in my eyes in the regular season. I still expect them to be a top 4 seed. Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
If they have another embarrassing playoff exit, I don't want to hear Jack. Well, everybody doubted them. They traded Jaylen and they got the 2 seed. If they get bounced again, blowing a 3-1 lead or blowing 2 20-point leads to an inferior team, I don't give 2. You can lick the underside of a boat with a 55-win season if they come up short in the playoffs again.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think this is about the playoffs. I think this is about their depth. I think this is about their roster construction as a whole. I think is what this is about.
But are they actually deeper for a playoff run, like significantly?
No, they're not.
Right.
But I think that's where they're trying to get, or at least that's what they're trying to tell us they're trying to get to.
And I think that is the case. And I'm not saying they're definitely going to wait and sit on those picks, although and it worked out, but that's what we said after the Nets trade. And what did Danny Ainge do? He made every single pick. Those picks aren't conveying anytime soon. Even if you trade them, they're not conveying for a real asset anytime soon. But here you are entering Jason Tatum's prime when you should be at your most competitive. Skaz, you made the comp to a quarterback on a rookie contract, and you're spot on in the sense that is the time you go all in. Now, it's not the same financial flexibility. You don't get NBA players in their prime on rookie contracts like you do players in the NFL, because players come in longer and the careers last longer, and it's apples and oranges. That's where you can't cross sports. But in the sense that in a player's career, in a player's 10 to 12-year career, if you have to pick a 2 to 3 to 4 year window to say, you know what, It's going to cost us a little more, but we're going to take some pride. We're going to take some pride in what our name's attached to, and we're going to go on. We're really going to try to capitalize on this. We're going to try to win titles, not a title, titles. When do you do that? In football, it's the quarterback on the rookie contract. That's when you spend. That's when you go all in. That's when you borrow from the future. In basketball, it's when that star player is between 28 and 31, 27 and 32, whatever you want to. It's where Jason Tatum is.
Oh, no, not so fast, Lois. A boat's a boat, but the mystery box could be anything.
Could even be a boat.
It could even be a boat.
You know how much we've wanted one of those?
We've wanted one of those.
Then let's just...
We'll take the box.
We'll take the box. And that's what the Celtics did. They borrowed from the current for the future when their superstar's 28 years old. Ridiculous. Ridiculous thing to do. And it'll get spun. Maybe they stick the landing. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. It's like Trey Murphy to me is still not enough to justify that. Who's enough to justify it that's out there? Like if they'd gotten Giannis, all right, they stuck the landing. You're servicing the near window. I just don't see them being able to do it. I don't see them being able to do it at this point. Not in the next year. Maybe in a year or two they do it, but now Jason Tatum's older, and you wasted time. You wasted his prime. Unfortunate. We got to get a quick check of the headlines when we come back. I want to react to this more. Let's get into Giannis a little bit. Plus your calls, 617-779-0. I should say that slower. I'm so used to saying it, I rushed through it. People might not know. 617-779-0985. Just the headlines, no commercials, and we're back. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
From the Town Fair Tire Studio, the game is on the Sports Hub.
Goes to the backhand and score! Two-hand slam!
Boston's home for sports.
I love this team!
98.5, the Sports Hub, a Beasley Media Group station. Sports Hub headlines.
Still in the fallout of the Jaylen Brown trade after the Celtics sent him to the Sixers last night for Paul George, 2 first and 2 second-round picks. Reporting today indicated the Celtics initially asked for 4 to 5 first-round picks, as well as rookie guard VJ Edgecombe. Meanwhile, conflicting reports on whether or not the Celtics would have given Giannis Antetokounmpo the full max extension if they had traded Brown for him, and if that got in the way of such a trade. The Celtics were a finalist to land Giannis last week before he was ultimately dealt to the Miami Heat. And in another Celtics move today, they've signed center Amari Williams to a 2-way contract, so he is sticking around after the team did not pick up his team option last week. MLB's handed down suspensions from the scuffle at Fenway Park earlier this week between the Red Sox, Nationals. The Red Sox will lose Wilson Contreras for 7 games and Nate Eaton for 3. Nats starting pitcher Cade Cavalli gets 7 games along with Contreras. This comes on an off day for the Red Sox. They're on the road against the Angels starting tomorrow. And in the World Cup, one final already today. Spain shuts out Austria 3-0 to move on to the round of 16. Currently tied scoreless between Portugal and Croatia. They are in the 45th minute. Just waiting to see how much extra time we're going to have in this first half. And then coming up tonight, 11 o'clock start, Switzerland takes on Algeria. The U.S. does not play again until Monday, their round of 16 game against Belgium. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Super Service Today. Currently hiring plumbers, experienced HVAC techs, and drain cleaning techs for their growing Danvers shop. Enjoy top pay, medical, dental, vision, and paid vacation and holidays. Apply now at superservicetoday.com/careers. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 8:30.
The Sports Hub. 3 legendary franchises on one legendary radio station. It's the Sports Hub.
What a disaster stretch for Brad Stevens, ending in a disaster of trading him to a freaking rival. Like, if you're going to trade him for Tyrese Maxey, okay.
Okay.
An Edgecombe, okay. Right? Get some worth value back. But this, this is ridiculous. I mean, this is absurd. Like, love to see Brad's word salad in defending this deal.
Call 617-779-0985. I'll ask you, and Skaz is in, and Skaz, of course, co-hosts the Green Teamers podcast, with Jake Seymour. You can find that on the Sports Hub YouTube page. Skaz, we know the Celtics clearly don't think highly of Jaylen Brown. I compared this to somebody today, and Jaylen's a better player, but your mind goes right to Bill Belichick trading Drew Bledsoe to the Buffalo Bills. Had no problem trading him in the division because he wasn't worried about what he was going to do to him. Should the Celtics have thought twice and maybe even taken a little less? Look, they didn't get that much to begin with. Should they have maybe taken a little less to get Paul George out west? Or at least not in the division. At least not to the team that just beat them in the playoffs.
I think it tells you everything you need to know about how the Boston Celtics organization felt about Jaylen Brown, the basketball player, that they sent him to Philadelphia, the team that, like you just said, had the biggest comeback in Celtics franchise history against them, not even a couple months ago. The Celtics just wanted rid of him. He's just started his stream. He's saying Boston packed me up.
Yeah, I'm seeing that.
He said that a couple times, apparently, according to Twitter.
I mean, they did.
They did.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong at all. And I think that's kind of the hardest thing to grasp is that the Boston Celtics wanted out of the Jaylen Brown business. They just did.
Brad was ready to drive him to the airport himself.
And it's hard to really come to any other conclusion because they sent him to Philadelphia for that package. So Jaylen Brown, a guy who constantly felt slighted, felt disrespected at numerous times throughout his career, whether that was when the Celtics gave him the largest contract in the history of the league or when he won the Finals MVP for the Celtics. The most disrespected he was ever as a member of the Celtics was yesterday.
On his way out.
Was when they traded him. When you see what he was traded for and where he was traded, that speaks volumes to me of what the Boston Celtics think of Jaylen Brown, the basketball player.
And I understand that Jaylen Brown is worth more to the Celtics. Because that's what people say when you hear the return and want to defend it. Well, he was worth more to the Celtics than he was to another team. That's why you don't trade him. That's why you don't trade him. Because he's valuable to your team. Because he's a really good number 2, but he's not a number 1. And you have a number 1. It also tells me, Skaz, and I was trying to think about how I wanted to talk about this today. And obviously, everybody who's been on from the morning show to middays to Felger and Maz, they've piled on ownership. I think fairly. Ownership deserves a massive knock here, even if it was not financially driven, which, come on. Your top basketball executive comes to you with this trade and you greenlight it. And again, that's the best case scenario when it comes to ownership. And that is not a good case scenario for ownership. But if Brad Stevens believes in Jaylen Brown and is told that he has to trade him, do you think he's doing this? No, not in that way. He's going to send him out west. He's going to try to get more. Maybe he tries to buy some time. Something different. This is as much, and I was a big Brad Stevens guy. I was on this program last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. I had this take at the beginning of the offseason. Brad Stevens, more so than Jason Tatum, and I'm quoting myself from a few weeks ago. Brad Stevens, more so than Jason Tatum, is the best thing the Celtics have going for them because there's a lot of bad GMs in this league. There's a lot of superstars that get put in bad positions, and I trust that Brad Stevens would never put Jason Tatum in a bad position. Hand up, I was wrong. Wrong. Could not have been more wrong. That is a Matt McCarthy jinx-esque cold take for me. That could not have aged any worse. So I go back, we can blame ownership, and there are certainly concerns about will this be the way the team is run in the long term? That is a fair question. Are they going to trend more in the direction of the Boston Red Sox and use analytics to try to find edge and penny pinch and not want to flirt with the tax or the aprons? And are there going to be issues with player retention? And are there going to be issues with staffing and things like that? All fair. And the private equity stuff, June Lee has been fantastic on all of it. All fair. I do not want to minimize any of that. I do not want to excuse any of that. If you've listened to me talk about the Red Sox, you know I have no problem doing that. But we can't let Brad Stevens off the hook either. Especially with that report from Shams that the Celtics did not do this with the second domino lined up to fall. Because even if you're given the directive, you have to trade Jaylen Brown, which is a crappy directive and should not be coming from an ownership that cares about winning the way Bill Chisholm said he did at his introductory press conference. We can go, fine. That directive should not come. The reality is it did. We think, at least. Presumably it did. If that directive comes and this is the outcome, take the same deal from the freaking Sacramento Kings. Send them out west somewhere. Don't send them to a Philly team that just beat you, that already showed they were better than you. So I'm sorry, Brad Stevens has to wear some of this too. The front office has to wear some of this too. I'm not trying to go light on ownership. I'm not. But this is a failure at multiple levels from the Boston Celtics. And I don't want to come back in 5 years and they'll flip the picks and they'll be better and Jason Tatum will be 33 years old. It's about time. Time in sports is a valuable commodity. It's a what have you done for me lately business. This trade does not help them in terms of time. It does not help in terms of what have you done for me lately. Let's grab one more call, then we'll hit the break. Bobby Krivitsky will join us on the other side. Covers the Celtics for Forbes. Maybe he can answer some of these questions. But let's go to Tim in the car on the Jaylen Brown trade. Tim, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
So my one thing is, and again, I think Brown's an unreal player, and again, he had a great season.
Yep.
But we always overhype some of our players in Boston. Marcus Smart, we thought he was the best. Isaiah Thomas, everybody in between. Now, I don't think they should have traded for him. Like, I'm sitting there scared in that position. But we've constantly overranked our players throughout the years.
Yeah, sure. But I there can be a gap between overrating and he went for as much as Walker Kessler. I don't think he was closer. I think he was closer to the player we thought he was than Walker Kessler. But I'm with you. I don't think he was the player a lot of people thought he was. But he's a better player than Walker Kessler.
100%. So, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, Tim, I appreciate the call. It's fair. That's what's weird for me in this. I, for a long time, said that Jaylen Brown was overrated by Celtics fans. But not that much. Not this much. Not even close. There's a middle ground there. By the way, he mentions the Marcus Smart thing. You remember what the Celtics got for Marcus Smart, Skaz?
That would be Kristaps Porzingis, no?
And?
Well, kind of picks?
2 first-round picks. Marcus Smart went for Kristaps Porzingis, who at the time was 27, I believe. Right? That June 2023? 27. Skaz, what's a better return? 27-year-old Kristaps Porzingis and 2 first-round picks? Or one from the Grizzlies. They got the 25th overall pick and a top 4 2024 pick from the Warriors. Top 4 protected. How big is the gap really between the return for Marcus Smart and the return for Jaylen Brown?
Not that much of a gap there.
How big is the gap between Jaylen Brown, the player, and Marcus Smart, the player?
I would say it's sizable.
Coming from a big Marcus Smart fan. Again, a guy who was cooler on Jaylen Brown than most and liked Marcus Smart more than most. Woof. Celtics had to give up some other pieces as well. Danilo Gallinari, Mike Muscala, second-round picks. But I didn't even think about that. Maybe we'll ask Bobby Krivitsky that. He'll join us next. Skaz back there monitoring the Jaylen Brown Twitch as well. We'll let you know if anything notable comes out of that. Plus your call, 617-779-0985. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.5. You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Back here on 98.5, the Sports Sub, Alex Barth in for Joe Murray tonight. We're still keeping track of the Jaylen Brown stream. This is from Bobby Manning, quoting Brown. At one point, I felt it was fine, but then it went left. I wish they had respected me to tell me exactly what it was, but it didn't go down like that. It wasn't facilitated like that. That was the most disappointing part. I thought I earned that respect. Again, saying they packed him up. So we'll sort through all that in a little bit. But helping us out, Bobby Krivitsky covers the Celtics for Forbes. Bobby, thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight.
Of course, Alex, always happy to come on.
Even under these circumstances, what was your initial reaction to the trade, and just what has it been like kind of sitting with it as more details have come out here in the last 24 hours?
So not that they traded him, of course, but the return, it really did conjure up comparable vibes to when Shams reported the Luka trade to the Lakers, and people are texting him wondering, did you just get hacked? And even people within the league were texting him that question. And this it's just such an underwhelming return. There's no way to spin it, Alex, that when it came out, it was stunning. But what it speaks to is that one side did not have the leverage and felt rushed to trade Jaylen Brown. And that's how you end up in this predicament.
Again, we're talking to Bobby Krivitsky. He covers the Celtics for Forbes. Are the Celtics in a better... Forget the short term. Just overall. Are the Celtics in a better, worse position right now than they were before the trade?
I think that what they did was they created more ammunition to go out and land a big fish and find a new running mate for Jason Tatum. Will that happen? When that happens, that is anyone's guess. It's not as if they made a concrete pivot into a new era, unless they are 10 toes down on it's going to be, especially under this more punitive collective bargaining agreement, Jason Tatum and a supporting cast that is entirely driven by complimenting him and accentuating your best player. They clearly felt that they don't believe the combination of Tatum and Brown, and Brad on the record said otherwise, but they don't make this trade if they believe that Jason and Jaylen can continue to deliver them championships, and that's the best path forward. So they obviously felt otherwise and were, again, compelled to make this trade. They have the flexibility now that they did not have going into this week to go out and make a big move. Again, the questions are, does it take until the season? Does it have to wait until next summer? And can they actually pull it off? And one factor that's not being discussed there, Alex, is that you made yourself less appealing to other stars who certainly have agency in where they end up and might look at how Jaylen Brown was just treated by this organization and say that they have other destinations at the top of their list.
So I don't want to speak for you, Bobby, but that's a lot of words for no, is how I heard that. But you mentioned in there, in all seriousness, that, okay, they can maybe flip these. Where I kind of have this mental block, I'll just give these to you. I started out the show, the three looming big picture questions about this I have. Why did it have to be right now? He was still under contract. In theory, could have gotten his value up. What does it mean for Tatum's contention window? He is entering his prime. What is their plan to address that and be at their best when they need to be at their best to get the most out of having Jason Tatum on their organization? And if they couldn't flip Brown for something better, why is there a belief that the sum of the parts are somehow worth more and they now have more to bargain with? So I guess what that all boils down to is I do understand the argument that they have more financial flexibility starting in, I think it's 2029, right? 28 or 29. Why should I, as a Celtics fan, be encouraged by that when a top 5 player in the league is about to enter his prime? I got to wait 2 to 3 years. Those 2 to 3 years to me should not be worth burning for future flexibility. Do you get what I'm saying?
Totally. So you're playing around with Jason Tatum's prime here.
Right.
And I'll try to go in order of the questions and get back to that. As far as why now? Like it or not, this was the best offer on the table, and they felt that they were losing leverage by the day because when July 26th arrives and Jaylen Brown is eligible for an extension, it wasn't coming. And the league knew that they were not inclined to give him that extension.
Sorry to cut you off, Bobby, but
Go ahead.
And just like legitimate questions, two things. When I say wait, I don't mean a week. I mean until next offseason. And I understand he's eligible for that extension. Would he have held out if they didn't give it to him?
You know, it's funny because before this trade happened, I would have said that his value is never going to be higher than it is right now, where he's younger, he's got more years left on his deal, and he's coming off a season where he finished 6th in the MVP voting and second All-NBA team for the second time in his career. But you look at the return and how much lower could it have gotten than this, especially when the belief around the league is that if the Sixers had traded Paul George, it was going to cost them a first-round pick attached to that contract. And obviously not really the case here unless you want to reduce the Celtics return even further. So to me, I look at it and I still think that it all comes back to they weren't going to give him the extension. It's possible that the two sides could have aired out, and Jaylen on his Twitch stream, I think, felt that he was owed a conversation, whether they tried to mend fences or not, when it comes to, hey, this is our concerns on the basketball side and what the analytics, for example, are telling us. And then Jaylen gets to speak his piece, and they know where he stands on a lot of issues. And the Celtics just, they chose not to go down that road. They were ready to go in a different direction instead. And again, I understand the idea. Jaylen was not going to hold out. That's just, it wasn't going to happen. But they also were ready to move on. And they very simply, if they wanted to run it back, they had that option. And you can see the return that they opted for instead.
So just listening to that answer, I was going to ask you this, but was this move made as a basketball decision or as a money decision?
I know that a lot of people want to point to the financials. The real culprit to me is the collective bargaining agreement. And I also think the second part of this is the analytics and what they were telling to not just the Celtics front office, but the rest of the league, with Jaylen's market being what it was. Right or wrong, too heavy of an investment in what these programs and the on-off splits and all of that are telling them. That's what ultimately drove this decision, those two components. And when you look at the contract that they took back in Paul George's, yes, 2 years from now, when George, assuming he picks up that player option, which is a safe bet, should he still be here? Because again, Alex, they could flip him. But if he's still here, the difference in that extra year left on Brown's deal equates to almost $65 million. So that's not chump change there, but it's not what drove this decision. Ultimately, it was, how do we best build a team around Jayson Tatum under this more punitive and parity promoting collective bargaining agreement?
So I actually want to get into the CBA. I have a question for you about that. You're still good to do 2 segments. We'll have you back
Absolutely.
after the break here. I am not an analytics guy. I am an eye test guy. Put on the film, put on the tape. I think, as Jaylen said, roll the ball out. Let's see it. I also think, I said this earlier in the show, there's a fallacy in, well, Jaylen became more involved and his analytics got worse, so we need to trade him. Although the idea here isn't that he's going to be that involved all the time. He's the number 2, Tatum's coming back. I think there's a fallacy there. So my question to you, do you believe Jayson Tatum is the player the analytics say he is?
Yes, I do. I think Jayson Tatum has the ability to be a top 5 guy in this league, even on the heels of
if I said Tatum, Jaylen Brown, do you believe Jaylen Brown is the player the analytics say he is?
No, I disagree with the analytics. And I do want to put in that these are really smart basketball minds making these decisions. It's not just, what is the computer saying, and then we act on it, kind of like Michael Scott in The Office, where he drives them into the river. That's not what's happening here. These are really, really sharp basketball minds, not just people who have a great understanding of algorithms and advanced metrics. But around the league, Alex, this is the consensus, and we don't agree with it. And I think the Celtics have put too much stock in this to make a deal like this and be so determined to move on from Jaylen Brown. But it does seem to be the opinion that has the most stock in it around the NBA.
All right, Bobby, I want to get into, you mentioned the CBA. I want to get into that. I want to get into what this means for the Celtics moving forward, the front office ownership. And there was something we were debating via text last night that I said we'd bring on the air. We'll do that on the other side. So Bobby's going to hang out. You guys keep hanging out. Quick commercial break right back after these headlines. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
Sports Hub headlines.
So, you somehow missed it. The Celtics did trade Jaylen Brown last night, sending him to the Sixers for Paul George, 2 first and 2 second-round picks. Reporting today indicated the Celtics initially asked for 4 to 5 first-round picks from the Sixers, as well as rookie guard VJ Edgecombe. Meanwhile, conflicting reports on whether the Celtics would have given Giannis Antetokounmpo a full max extension had they traded for him 2 weeks ago. The Celtics were finalists to deal Brown for Giannis, but ultimately he was traded to the Miami Heat. And in another move today from the Celtics, they officially signed center Amari Williams to a 2-way contract. Suspensions coming down for Major League Baseball for the scuffle at Fenway Park earlier this week between the Red Sox and Nationals. On the Red Sox side of things, Wilson Contreras gets 7 games. Nate Eaton gets 3. Meanwhile, National starting pitcher Cade Cavalli also gets 7 games. This comes on an off day for the Red Sox. They begin a series on the road against the Los Angeles Angels tomorrow. In the World Cup, 1 game done, 1 game in action, 1 to go today. Spain is through to the round of 16. They beat Austria 3-0. Portugal and Croatia tied at 1 in the 72nd minute. Cristiano Ronaldo evening things up with a penalty kick in the 68th minute. Again, that game is tied with 72 minutes to go. And then coming up tonight at 11 o'clock, it's Switzerland and Algeria. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Awaken 180 Weight Loss. Don't put off losing weight this summer. Reach your goal during the easiest season for weight loss. Awaken 180, the official weight loss program of summer. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 9 o'clock. Back here on 98.5 The Sports of Alex Barth, we are joined by Bobby Krivitsky, covers the Celtics for Forbes. Bobby, you mentioned something there before the break, talking about why this happened and as it relates to the current CBA. And I think what we're learning, and the Celtics are maybe one of the first cases of this, there's not enough cap space to carry two good players. That's just the way the league is set up right now. There's not enough cap. Like, in theory, the cap space is supposed to be, here's how much money you have to build a roster, and it's supposed to give you an opportunity to build a competitive roster. The NBA cap might not be structured that way. So my question to you, and I thought about this long before this Jaylen Brown stuff came up, but I'm ready to dig my heels on this and really make this my take, because I'm not an Adam Silver guy. I think Adam Silver has been bad for the NBA, and I think he's continuing to actively harm the league and make it worse. Is the current NBA salary cap, apron, luxury tax structure, is it bad for the league? Is it bad for the health of the league?
So first off, just keep in mind that Adam Silver works for the owners. And secondly, the trade-off that they have made is they want it to resemble the NFL, at least more closely, where they can sell hope to, the ideal is, every single fan base. And for a long time in the NBA's existence, it has not been like that. But now you've had 8 different champions in 8 straight years. That's a new record. Not all of that coincides with the ushering in of a new collective bargaining agreement, but it certainly has helped to sustain that. And that's the direction they want to go. To achieve that, a big part of the cost is that players who fans grow attached to, you're either not going to have as much time to develop that connection and strengthen it, or they're going to end up like Jaylen Brown, where they're ultimately on the way out, with this CBA being a driving force behind it.
Do you think that's good for the league, that players maybe can't? And so, yeah, there's the trade-off. You can sell hope to these different fan bases, but at the cost of, I think it's so important for fans to be able to get to know players and grow up with players and things like that. And obviously the Celtics still have Jason Tatum, but I think that you can hit a point where it's too much player movement. And it's just, you got to look at the beginning of every year and check who's on what team. I personally think ultimately it's combined with all these games are behind paywalls and you have stars not playing certain nights and, all this stuff that's been talked about. I just think it and I get he works for the owners. Obviously, the owners like this because it's an out for them to spend less money. Obviously. In the short term, it's going to help them in that regard. In the long term, does it have a chance to hurt the branding and the image of the league?
It has a chance to hurt the league in the short and the long run. I will say that fans in particular, everyone, but fans, it's the easiest to point to and say, we want our cake and we want to be able to have it too. And so we want to sell us hope, and our team has a legitimate chance to win a championship no matter where we are and what the history of this league has been. But we also want to be able to hold on to our favorite players in, as long as we want them around, right? And that's not some asking too much request, in my opinion, but it can get in the way of what the league has determined is the primary objective, which is parity. And so if it becomes easier, for example, if there's a cap credit to keep players around, then all of a sudden it is putting a dent into this number one driving force of theirs, this motive that we want more teams to have a shot and more fans to come to games believing that this could be the year that their team wins it all, because there's been 12 straight new champions year after year. So why can't it be us all of a sudden? And ultimately, right or wrong, that's the wager. And it's a league that's known to adjust pretty quickly to public outcry.
Yep.
Often they end up chasing their tail on that, where they make a tweak and then pretty quickly, before it's even had a chance to marinate, they make another. But that seems to be the bet right now.
I will just say, for what it's worth, last 8 champions: Warriors, Raptors, Lakers, Bucks, Warriors, Nuggets, Celtics, Thunder, Knicks. A lot of big markets in there. A lot of fans that had hope anyway. Like, I look at a team like Charlotte that has to sell off pieces because they're not going to be able to go into that level. But your cap credit's a good idea, something like that. I think it's I'm all for parity. I'm all for parity. I'm all for every team having a shot. But you might have gone too far the other direction. But this is the reality. This is the reality. This is how the league is structured. This is how the financials work. I know, Bobby, you said this was a basketball-driven decision, but you can't ignore the financials of it and what it means for them in the long term. Is this the new MO for the Celtics?
Again, I think that this is the MO of how do we best navigate this collective bargaining agreement that we're talking about, and the second prong being what the analytics are telling the Celtics and the rest of the league about Jaylen Brown that they have chosen to buy into, and they know the player better than anyone else. So I think the idea is either they're going to be patient this season, and they are, I know there's a report out there from Tom Haberstroh. They are big believers in Peyton Pritchard. And so what does his growth look like under this new look roster? Should they hold steady and only make some small moves the rest of this offseason? And the same for Derek White. And if you want to believe in a player like Ugo Gonzalez and Baylor Shireman and on down the line, you have to give them opportunities. And is this how you get even more out of Jason Tatum? And if the results are overwhelmingly successful, they'll continue in this direction should they give it a chance. And if the plan was to be patient and play out next year like that, and they don't love it, or they come to the conclusion he needs another big name star next to him, then they have the ammunition to try and pull that off.
How do you feel about Brad Stevens coming away from this? Because you'd said earlier you believe this is a basketball-driven move, so then we put Stevens in the spotlight there. I was a huge believer in Brad Stevens, huge. I called him their best asset because I trusted him to not put Jason Tatum in a bad position the way other superstars have been put around the league by bad GMs. Might have been wrong about that, but obviously some of the shines come off what was a tremendously successful start for him as essentially general manager, president of basketball operations. How does this impact the way you look at Brad Stevens running the team?
So he is still one of the best executives in basketball. He took over in the summer of 2021 and has won Executive of the Year twice. And you can say, well, I don't care about that award. It's empty calories to me. Fine. It's still the rest of the league is letting you know that this guy is one of the best at his job and at building a team. He already built a champion. I think they were very smart and at the forefront of let's get out in front of this new collective bargaining agreement, be aggressive early before it fully bakes in. And they won a championship that way by loading up the roster. And now people don't love the idea of getting under the luxury tax and all these different elements, but it is the easiest way to go out and load up the roster again and try and do so quickly with Jason Tatum still in his prime, which is what this entire endeavor is. So to me, I understand this trade is certainly a head scratcher. It's not one that I would have done, but Brad Stevens is still one of the sharpest minds in basketball and the best at his job.
All right, you call it a head scratcher. This is what we were talking about last night. I said we'd bring it on the air. What's the worst trade, this or Luka?
It's Luka, Alex, and I'll defer to you right now. It's based on the text, it seems like you want to take the other side.
Yeah, I just think the Mavericks did a full teardown, and some of it is the result. Admittedly, they got to the bottom, they got Cooper Flag right, but and Anthony Davis, say what you will about his injuries, was not 36 years old coming off a PED suspension. They were a team that if they truly didn't believe in Luka, which I think is nuts, but if they truly didn't believe in Luka, they did an actual teardown. They went to the bottom. Yet the veteran player they got was also somehow a better option than Paul George. So I think they're both bad. I think that one's better. But you think that this is not as bad as Luka trade. Why?
All right, let's start here. The Celtics got more draft capital than Dallas did. And of course, the Mavericks got the better player back in Anthony Davis. They were dealing a 25-year-old superstar who already had 5 first-team All-NBA selections on his resume. He was recently removed from leading his team to the NBA Finals, where he led the series in multiple categories, including scoring. And he
lost
wanted to be
the MVP to who?
Yeah, well, so, he's still at 25 against in an overmatched series, was putting up that type of production. And frankly, to even take that Dallas team to the finals is an accomplishment in and of itself. And he did not want to leave Dallas whatsoever. Right. He literally chucked his phone against the wall when that trade went down, and there was no reason to do it. And neither process was one that you would teach a young executive how to go out and, replicate that this is the way forward. This is how you handle a situation like this. But the one where you're not really shopping the younger superstar talent who's under contract, that is more malpractice than what happened here.
Fair enough. I think in terms of, I'll give you that. In what he meant to that organization, I forgot he was that much younger than Jaylen Brown when that trade happened. I forgot he was only 25 when they did that. I don't know why I thought he was in his late 20s. That is fair. I'll give you one more before we let you go because we were just looking this up. What's a better return? 2 firsts, 1 3, 1 5 years down the road, 2 seconds, and a 36-year-old Paul George, or 27-year-old Kristaps Porzingis, an immediate first, 25th overall, and a 1 year down the road top 4 protected first?
I'll roll the dice with that latter package.
So you think that's a better return?
I do. You said 27-year-old Kristaps Porzingis?
Yeah.
Did I hear that correctly?
Yep. That's what the Celtics got for Marcus Smart.
Yeah. So they did a better job there. And I mean, it's plain and simple. This is a trade, Alex, that the reaction is not sending flowers towards the Auerbach Center and, bravo, they've done it again. This is an organization with a history built on pulling off these unbelievable trades, and some of them have been absolute heists throughout their history. It didn't happen this go around, and they were operating under duress. They were determined to trade Jaylen, and the result is, frankly, an underwhelming package that now you wonder how they salvaged this.
So it's interesting you say that, because I'll be honest. So I didn't think about it that way, but it's funny. Like, they've made so many of these unbelievable trades, right? The Nets trade, and then, again, that deal with Marcus Smart and all of that. I related it, as you look at the Celtics' history, more to, in a league where, as we talked about earlier, especially in the last 10 years, player movement has become so over-the-top common. I've always respected the way the Celtics have never kind of given into that, and they believed in their own players, maybe to a fault. They got rid of Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, probably just in time. And again, rip somebody off, they did that. Rajon Rondo, you could argue, was here longer than he should have been. Al Horford, Avery Bradley, you want to go further back. I mean, Larry Bird was falling apart when he was here at the end. It's always been their guys. Like that Celtics, the green runs deep thing is real. In a league that became so much about player movement, they were the antithesis of that. And I think more so, and both are true, which is maybe why it hit so hard. I hadn't considered that they've been on the other side of this trade so many times, but on the other side, they've never been the team giving up a face of the franchise kind of player in their 20s. They were always the team pushing that off. And at times they got burned for it. And at times they got ripped for it when it was even the right move. Maybe that's why it's so shocking, is because when's the last time the Celtics took, again, Pierce and Garnett, I do wish Paul Pierce had retired a Celtic, but for what they got, for where he was in his career, you do that trade 12 times out of 10. When's the last time the Celtics moved on from a guy who was even starting caliber? Forget Jaylen Brown's caliber, MVP candidate. Moved on from a starting caliber player in his prime. They've really never done this in our lifetimes.
Yeah, that's literally what I was going to say. It's not in our lifetimes if it's happened, and they usually are not it's better to be early than late franchise here when it comes to these trades, as you just laid out there. So this is certainly a pivot, but it also speaks to, for almost the entire history of the NBA, it was a different set of operating rules that they had to abide by and try to navigate. And so what they decided is that Jaylen, under this contract, as he enters his 30s, eligible for an extension. And for all we know, he would have been willing to move forward with a conversation and no extension. But if you're just looking at it from a Celtic standpoint and you're not willing to talk to him, then, you can understand why they would not want to go down that road, especially if ultimately they were just determined to trade him. And that's how you end up in a situation where we're talking about something that is unprecedented for this franchise.
Bobby Krivitsky, he covers the Celtics for Forbes. You can find him on social media at Bobby Krivitsky. Bobby, thank you so much. Extended time above and beyond, sir. I'm sure it's been crazy for you. I'm sure it's been nuts for you the last couple of days. Hopefully you get some rest here and can enjoy the 4th.
Yeah, we got the 4th of July for that. Always a pleasure, Alex.
There you go. Thanks, Bobby. Yeah, Skaz, now that I think about it, I mean, the Celtics moving on from a player that, in their prime that was considered even less than Jaylen Brown, but like a core player. I saw somebody in the YouTube chat said Isaiah Thomas, that would be one, and that was viewed as extreme at the time. There was also a medical issue there, so that's maybe an exception. I wasn't alive for it, but I can hear my dad telling me to bring up the Cedric Maxwell trade, which, again, was very controversial at the time. Can you think of another one? Because I really can't. Maybe a couple guys in free agency, like they let Robert Williams walk, but Ray Allen was older. And he left. They didn't
Perk for Jeff
actively
Green.
move on. All right, Perk for Jeff Green's probably a good one. But they're few and far between compared to the rest of the league. At least it feels that way to me. If you have some others, 617-779-0985. But we're going to do a quick break from the basketball here. Skaz does have an in or out lined up. You guys didn't get to this last night, right? Too much going on?
I don't believe so, no.
So an overdue in or out. We'll do that next. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
What's it gonna be, McFly? Are you in or out?
Don't.
Sox signed center Amari Williams to a 2-way contract. Major League Baseball has handed down suspensions from the scuffle at Fenway Park between the Red Sox and Nationals earlier this week. The Sox will lose Wilson Contreras for 7 games, plus Nate Eaton for 3. Nats starting pitcher Cade Cavalli got 7 games for his role in the altercation. This comes as the Red Sox are on an off day. They're heading west. They begin a series against the Los Angeles Angels tomorrow. And another close late game at the World Cup. Portugal and Croatia currently in the 100th minute. And what might be the final minute, Portugal leads 2-1. Croatia scored first, but Ronaldo in the 68th minute on a penalty kick tied it up. And then Goncalo Ramos scored 4 minutes into extra time in the second half. And we'll see if Croatia can even it up and force yet another overtime match. One more to come tonight as well, with Switzerland taking on Algeria. That one starts at 11 o'clock. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Super Service Today, currently hiring plumbers, experienced HVAC techs, and drain cleaning techs for their growing Danvers shop. Enjoy top pay, medical, dental, and vision, plus paid vacation and holidays. Apply now at superservicetoday.com/careers. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 9:30.
Boston Talk Sports.
Trade Drake May. We all know what, but we won't say what. Yeah, worst take on these airwaves in the last 24 hours.
We may not take a call today.
The Sports Hub.
Are you in or out? Gotta know without a doubt. I'm the one you need for a dirty deed. I'm the best. Success is guaranteed.
All right, top of the hour, in or out. Alex Barth in for Joe Murray tonight. My favorite segment to do when I fill in on the show. I've been looking forward to this. Good idea from Skaz to push till after the headlines so we get a full segment on it. Oh, also, good point on Twitter. Celtics players traded in their prime, Antoine Walker. Duh. And I guess you throw Al Jefferson in there too, but that's different because of what they got back. They were the buyer, not the seller in that trade. I'm talking about as a seller. Anyway, Skaz, what do you got for me?
All right, Barth, welcome. A July 2nd edition of In or Out. It feels good to be back after a brief hiatus, an understandable hiatus after the news yesterday, Barth.
This or that? Jaylen Brown or Paul George?
Yeah, I'll take Jaylen Brown in that one. But Barth, let's start with Danny McBride. Why not? Danny McBride, you will know him from Eastbound and Down, among many other things. Danny McBride.
Righteous Gemstones.
Yes, the Righteous Gemstones. That confirms he has written a new G.I. Joe movie. Are we in or out on a Danny McBride written G.I. Joe movie?
I'm assuming he wrote it as some sort of comedy, and this isn't like a weird pivot to drama thing for him?
So the bullet points are his favorite franchise growing up. It is a grounded action film, not a comedy. Takes place in a town where everyone is secretly members of Cobra. I think that's the bad guys.
Yes.
That's pretty much it. So maybe this is like for his kids or something, hopefully. I don't know. I hope it's not like an over-the-top serious G.I. Joe movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Danny McBride's funny. Do a comment. I hate to be a stay-in-your-lane guy, but I'm watching Danny McBride to laugh. I'm going to say out. I feel bad because I like Danny McBride, but I'm going to say I'm out on that one.
These World Cup games are delivering.
Oh, they tied it?
Delivering.
Oh! Wow! Oh, that rules.
And that would be, if this goes to PKs, Ronaldo cannot
I was going to say, Ronaldo subbed out in, the 81st minute? Why did they do that?
They wanted some fresh legs, I guess.
It was tied at the time. They subbed him out, and then they scored to go up 2-0.
Oh.
Is that coming back? So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That might come back.
That's going to be an offsides. That's tough, because the guy that was offsides really wasn't...
Yeah, he was pretty involved, it looked like.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. No, that's offsides. You're right.
I mean, we could be wrong. Who knows these days?
You never know.
But let's
we'll do a little more World Cup talk later.
We've done a lot of NBA tonight. Let's stick with the NBA.
Okay.
Tim Hardaway Sr. will not allow his son to wear his retired number 10 with the Miami Heat. He says, my legacy is my legacy. Even though he likes to wear number 10, that is not coming down from the rafters. Barth, are you in or out?
I'm in on it. I'm okay with it. how many times do athletes maybe get the burden of being, you got to live up to your parents? Michael Jordan's kid sucked, right? Ted Williams' kid wasn't good. No, do your own thing. Like, I think that's probably good for him. I think in a way, maybe this wasn't the intention, but in a way, he's maybe looking out for his kid.
My only issue with it, though, he named his son Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah, I guess it's not really a secret.
That's my legacy is my legacy. It's like, all right, well, kind of, Tim, but you did name him.
Tim Hardaway Jr. is almost by definition part of your legacy.
Yes, that's my only pushback there. But sticking with the NBA theme, Barth, you're a guy who likes to play video games every once in a while, as do I. The Most Hated Man in Gaming, a documentary coming soon about Ronnie 2K, Ronnie Singh, executive produced by Kevin Garnett. Are we in or out on a documentary on the most hated man in gaming, Ronnie 2K? And for those who don't know, Ronnie 2K was kind of like a random guy, basically, who became the figurehead of ratings on 2K. And people would complain to him about their ratings, and players would complain to him about their ratings. Barth, are you in or out on a documentary on the most hated man in gaming?
By the way, we got no goal for Croatia, so It looks like Portugal's going to hang on 2-1. I'm out because I'm just out on. They ruined that game. The last 3 or 4 of them have been really bad. They changed the gameplay itself. They made it impossible to hit jump shots. It feels crowded. It feels like they shrunk the floor. 2K's been going downhill. Look out for Madden. Madden trending up. And I mean, they really had no direction, trend but up after a couple years ago. Madden trending up, 2K trending down. I'm going to say out.
All right, Barth, we'll keep the NBA news rolling. The San Antonio Spurs making a little bit of news tonight. Maybe Mitch Johnson should be watching over his shoulder closely. Billy Donovan has agreed to become the lead assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs. Barth, are you in or out on Billy Donovan heading to San Antonio?
I am in on Mitch Johnson having to look over his shoulder. What a pathetic showing that was from him in the NBA Finals. Another one of these coaches that doesn't know what to do except tell people to shoot threes. And I put all the pressure on all those coaches you can. Let Sam Cassell sit more up front, sit more visible. Bring him to some of these press conferences for the Celtics. They should do something like this. Very in.
All right, Barth, as we do NBA, a lot of Celtics Sixers talk tonight. This from our friends over at DraftKings and just about any sportsbook you can find. The Boston Celtics currently still have a higher over-under win total than the Philadelphia 76ers. Barth, are you in or out on the Celtics winning more games than the 76ers next year?
I actually think that's going to happen. Because the Celtics around Jason Tatum are going to be, it's going to be kind of like the Bridgie Celtics again. They're not going to take nights off when everybody else is taking nights off in the regular season. You're going to have Ugo Gonzalez and Baylor Shireman and Peyton Pritchard and Amari Williams out there going full go against some team that just is focused on the playoffs. Speaking of which, the Sixers, Embiid's going to get managed. Maxi's going to get managed. Jaylen Brown's going to get managed. And so, they'll drop into some losses because they know once they get in the dance, they have as much talent as anybody in the Eastern Conference, especially if they also then get LeBron James. So, the Celtics are probably going to win more regular season games. I said this earlier. Doesn't mean anything. But if I had to bet it, I would bet the Celtics to win more games than the Sixers. I would.
All right, Bart. Now, let's get to the good stuff. Food.
This is what I was waiting for.
Barth, you a fan of Uncrustables?
Some flavors, yes.
Okay, a new Uncrustable has hit the market. Bursting Blueberry Uncrustables are here. It is peanut butter and blueberry spread in the Uncrustable signature no-crust bread. Barth, are you in or out on a peanut butter and blueberry Uncrustable?
I think I'm in on that. I'm not a huge blueberry guy, but I don't mind it. I love peanut butter. Got to get the ratio right. It needs to be more peanut butter than blueberry. But if the ratio's right, I could get behind that.
Yeah, why not? Give it a shot. This one, Barth. Friends over at McDonald's are releasing a new limited-time chocolate-flavored McGriddle. So the buns will be chocolate-flavored. Are we in or out? The muffins, I guess you would say? The English muffins are chocolate-flavored.
And the McDonald's breakfast sandwich is good. That's so succulent.
That's a dessert right there.
I was going to say, it's very sweet. I'd try it once. I'm intrigued enough to try it, but I don't think I'd like it. I think it would be too much.
All right, Barth. Well, speaking of dessert, our friends over at the Cold Stone Creamery.
Oh, here we go.
Have introduced a new Reese's and Oreo crossover ice cream taco. So it is your classic almost Choco Toco, but with a Reese's and Oreo mix. Barth, are we in or out?
Most in of anything you've said so far. That sounds tremendous. Where was that? Cold Stone Creamery?
That would be Cold Stone Creamery.
I got to find where the closest Cold Stone Creamery is. Yeah, very in. Are you kidding me? I loved the Choco Toco. Way to pronounce it right, Skaz. Good job.
Shout out Brennan Glasheen.
Way to be aware. Yeah, and I mean, I love Reese's, and I mean, my go-to flavors for ice cream is either the Reese's Cup or the cookies and cream. So that sounds tremendous. On hot day, hell yeah. Sign me up.
Yeah, man. You keep chocolate and peanut butter undefeated.
Yeah.
Undefeated.
Oh, yeah.
Barth, are we in or out on themed popcorn buckets for movies?
As somebody who doesn't really go to the movies, maybe I'm missing something. I'm going to say out. Some of them seem difficult to eat the popcorn, which is the main purpose of the bucket. I am a big popcorn guy. I don't go to the movies a lot, but I very much like popcorn. I got like a rubber microwave bowl. I stopped eating like the prepackaged microwave popcorn. They say that's terrible for you. So I got a thing to microwave like the kernels themselves. So I eat a lot of popcorn. Easy access is important with eating popcorn. If you got to like tighten your hand, tighten your grip, you're going to smush it and pieces will fall out between your fingers. You need easy access. That's why the old popcorn buckets, think about it. They were bigger on top than they were on the bottom. There was plenty of access to that bucket. Some of these do not have great access. If you show me one that has good access, fine. You want to be festive for a movie, I'm not opposed. But it needs to be a functional bucket. And too many of them do not look functional for me. So I'm going to say out. The concept is fine. The actual practice of it needs to be reworked.
I would agree wholeheartedly. You see some of them for like, the Alien movies or even Dune, I think, has had some ones.
So you just sent me the Super Trooper bucket.
Yeah, so first of all, are you in or out on Super Troopers 3?
Oh, hell yeah. Bring it to me. I love Super Troopers, one of my favorite movies.
Brian Cox, tremendous.
Yeah, 2 is pretty good. Look, will it kind of suck? Yeah, probably. Will I care? No. I liked Happy Gilmore too. Just give me that vibe and I'm good. Because that's just a normal popcorn bucket with sunglasses and a mustache on it. That is an easy access bucket. Fine. In on that. That's good to go. Some of these other ones, way too complicated. Way too complicated.
All right, Barth, while we're talking movies, a new poster released for the movie The End of Oak Street, starring Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor. The film follows a family who discover that their neighborhood has been transported back in time to the prehistoric era. Barth, are we in or out on a Anne Hathaway, Ewan McGregor prehistoric era movie?
In on the cast, out on the concept. That's a good cast.
I think that's very fair.
But they're out of ideas.
Everyone is out of ideas.
This is just worse Jurassic Park.
Yes, yeah. What if Jumanji and Jurassic Park?
What
combined.
if instead of bringing the dinosaurs to the people, we brought the people to the dinosaurs? And that just sets up for a stupid sequel. And yeah, out. I think I'm out. Good cast. Very good cast. I wish they had a better idea.
All right, Barth, and we can end with this one tonight as we have some soccer just ending, and we will have some more coming up.
Win for Portugal.
This from TMZ. Exclusive Justin Bieber is in talks to perform at the FIFA World Cup final. Alex Barth, are you in or out on the Biebs performing at the FIFA World Cup final?
Sure, I've come around on Justin Bieber in recent years. Hated him when I was a teenager, as I think any teenage boy our age did. Found him annoying, right? That was girl music, but he's you go beyond some of the poppy stuff. He's very talented. Great singer.
I'm a Biebs guy. Why not?
Puts the songs together well. He actually, I think he does some of the stuff himself. I've heard him talk about like music theory and things like that. Just kind of laying low, got married, going to hang out at the NHL draft. Like, isn't that what you would do if you had all the money in the world and nothing to do? Just go hang out at your favorite sporting events? Like, I can relate to that. Yeah, let him perform. Sure. I'm in on that.
All right, Bart, that is going to wrap up a July 2nd edition of In or Out.
Good stuff, guys. Stenberg produced for me last week. He brought a new wrinkle. Curious your thoughts as the producer.
Oh, I like this.
He just asked me volleyball, in or out. He had told me before, he's like, I'm going to ask you just a random thing, like one down. He had said he was going to do lacrosse, and he changed it to volleyball.
I'm in on volleyball, I think, right?
I'm in on volleyball.
Misty May Trainer, legend,
I used to call volleyball. It was quick games.
Oh.
Got the same check.
What do they do? Like 3 sets? What are they?
Yeah, it's like 45 minutes. I get the same check I got for calling 2.5-hour soccer game.
Sign me up for that.
Right, exactly. But I am in on the 1 word in or out. I just thought I'd get your thoughts.
I think we might need a list of 70 items, but I think maybe one day.
Well, just throwing one in on each, you get what I'm saying?
No, I get it, but I think there is potential out there for a strictly 1 word in or out.
In or out.
Yes.
You could do food items for Joe. Waffles.
Yes. Yeah, in.
In on waffles.
Hard
obviously.
in.
Yeah, but not trying to help you produce your segment. I just thought it was a fun wrinkle from Stenberg.
We welcome anything at night.
It's tough to keep things going. We've seen what's happened with Zolak and Bertrand and this or that.
Well,
you got to keep coming up with topics.
What happened? Tom Morgan just running that right into the ground.
Are you blaming you're Team McCone?
I mean, as a producer, I feel like it is Tom Morgan's responsibility to keep that thing on the rails, and some of those this or that's are just brutal.
McCone could step it up.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's McCone. He's that's not his job.
I am in 10 to 2 tomorrow with Andy Hart. We might have to come up with a good this or that.
I think it's needed. Maybe a holiday edition of this or that.
Ooh, throw that in the chain next. Coming up next on the show, Adam Aronson covers the Sixers for the Philly Voice. I'm curious, and I think some Celtics fans are, not just what the Celtics are getting in Paul George and what he is at this point in his career, but what the expectations are in Philly as they add Jaylen Brown. We'll talk to him next. It's Alex Barth for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.5.
877-908-95. But I want the Philadelphia perspective, too, because obviously we're going to be very Boston-centric. But Jaylen Brown, this is going to be a thing. We're going to follow him his entire career in Philly and wherever he goes in the comparison. So to get the Philly perspective, Adam Aronson, he covers the Sixers for the Philly Voice, is kind enough to join us. Adam, hello. Thanks for taking the time.
Hey, thanks for having me, Alex. I appreciate it.
What was your initial reaction to this, and was there any rumblings within Philly? Obviously, none of the national guys had it, on the record, just back channels. Had you heard any sort of inkling that Jaylen Brown could be traded in the division to the Sixers?
I did not. I don't know anybody who really had anything substantive that indicated that was a possibility. I would imagine that for a long period, the Sixers themselves probably did not think that they had enough to be competitive in that market. I was shocked like everybody else. I think everybody here in Philadelphia was shocked like everybody else. And I think it speaks to the way that market really deteriorated in a way that the Celtics did not hope or anticipate that the Sixers were even able to be competitive for Jaylen Brown, let alone actually get a deal done.
And then to get, is it fair to call the Paul George contract an albatross out of the way too? That to me is as surprising as any part of this. As much as he went to Philly, is that they got somebody to take the Paul George contract and take it in this way. Did you expect that Paul George contract to be moved at any extent this offseason?
I did not. I thought if it got moved, I thought next offseason, when assuming he picks up a player option that I think everybody is pretty confident he'll pick up, I think at that point he'd have one of the biggest expiring contracts in NBA history, and that could be really valuable salary filler in a trade for a star. I had thought about that a lot as a potential avenue for the Sixers to add their next star player. Now I think that's pretty clearly the potential pathway for the Celtics to do the same. I think it's fair to describe that as a negative value contract. It's about $110 million over the next 2 years. Paul George, when he's on the court, is still a very good player. He is not necessarily a superstar level player or anything close to it as he was, maybe 10 years ago, the first time the Celtics tried to trade for him back in the day. But he is extremely additive on both ends of the floor. Offensively, as high level of a three-point shooter as you can ask for. Shoots them at high volume, shoots them over contests, off the dribble, off movement, off the catch, shoots them at a high percentage. Defensively, I would say this. I was shocked by how much Paul George contributed defensively in his 2 years with the Sixers. When he was on the court, he often defended the other team's best player. I think arguably one of the single biggest reasons the Sixers had that 3-1 series comeback against the Celtics was because George just outplayed Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum on both ends of the floor. This is still a really high-level player, can guard on ball, really is almost a defensive savant off the ball, in my opinion. And the Sixers, their defense was consistently excellent when Paul George was on the floor for them, and it really struggled when he was not out there for them. It was something that everybody really acknowledged in Philly. Nick Nurse talked a lot about the role Paul George played as a communicator. The Celtics are not lacking in, experience and good coaching, but I think it never hurts to have a high-level defensive player who also communicates really well with other players. I think Paul George is going to be a really substantive piece for the Celtics. Obviously, it hinges on his availability, and that's always the concern with him to some degree, as often seems to happen here in Philly. But I think if the Celtics are getting him on the court a considerable amount, they're going to find that they just got a really good player.
So I was wondering, because he was obviously great in that playoff series, and did the Celtics see him in the playoffs and maybe overvalue him, but it doesn't sound like in your mind that playoff series was an aberration for him.
No, I would say this. If we had been having this conversation in January, I would not have been saying all of this stuff. Paul George has been injury-plagued for his entire Sixers tenure at that point. He just did not have the same off-the-dribble burst that he used to have. That is still the case to some degree. But then he got suspended. And it's funny. You would think that, a 9-time All-Star on a max contract, 4 years, $212 million, getting suspended for a violation of the league's drug policy would be remembered as a distinct negative event. But Sixers fans ended up becoming incredibly grateful for that, because really George had been sort of playing catch up from a physical perspective his entire tenure with the team. And that gave him just 7 weeks off he could practice, he could play and shoot around. He just couldn't be at the arena for games. He had 7 weeks to do nothing but work on his body. And when he got back, he was in outstanding shape. there were only 10 games left in the season, but he played all 10 of those games. He was outstanding. I mean, you can just look at the numbers. I don't have the splits in front of me, but he was a completely different player. He was able to get to the rim, not a ton, still not as much as you'd want. And that's something that I think everybody agrees the Celtics need more of specifically. So maybe that is a potential issue. But he played incredible two-way basketball that carried over into the Boston series. And then he sort of like everybody else ran out of gas in that second round series against New York, where they were just playing so many minutes, the top guys, because the Sixers' depth was pretty brutal last year. So, yeah, look, I think, is he a perfect player? No. Is he going to have games that are frustrating? Probably yes. And the injury concern really, to me, is considerably greater than any basketball-related concern with Paul George. But when he is playing, this is still a very good two-way player. This is not, like, is he worth what he's getting paid? I don't know. I would guess not in the aggregate, particularly because of those injury issues. But when he's on the court, he is really, really good. That remains the case. That has been the case for his entire career. And even if he's not the player he once was, even if he is still the butt of a lot of jokes, he is still really good.
Again, we're talking to Sixers writer Adam Aronson. What is the expectation now in Philly? This is a team that obviously has come up short more often than not, has struggled to even get to the conference finals, but you have Maxey, Embiid, Edgecombe, now Jaylen Brown. Is this the best team they've had in Joel Embiid's tenure? And are the expectations higher than they've been the past few years?
Yeah, the expectations absolutely are higher. I don't know how many Boston fans are necessarily familiar with the dynamic that's existed here in Philadelphia for the last few years. Sixers fans really entering this offseason, we're sort of at the point of teetering on apathy. Like, everybody here loves Tyrese Maxey, as they should. Everyone here is incredibly excited about VJ Edgecombe, as they should be. But people have really grown to be fatigued particularly with Joel Embiid and even with Paul George as well. The will he or won't he play? The giant contract that they're committed to these guys. I think Sixers fans have seen this team fall short in the playoffs so many times, obviously 3 times at the hands of the Celtics more than anybody else in Embiid's career. It's sort of a I'll believe it when I see it situation with a lot of Sixers fans as far as this team being meaningfully competitive. And I think having it be Jaylen Brown, who's the new face here, is so interesting because Jaylen Brown is one of the two faces of the obstacles that the Sixers have never been able to get around in the playoffs. And obviously it's incredibly ironic that the Sixers were the team that, caused the Celtics to break up the Tatum-Brown duo and then traded for Jaylen Brown, who I believe has played more games against the Sixers than any other team in his 10-year NBA career. I think there's a lot of intrigue here now. There's a lot of excitement. I think there are people who were starting to sort of pull away from the Sixers, especially, the Eagles are among the gold standard in the NFL. The Phillies have had a bunch of really competitive teams in recent years, and the Sixers have been on sort of a downward slope, and that's coincided with Embiid's injury issues getting even worse. And so I think having someone else that they can bank on, like, say what you want about Jaylen Brown, he's a flawed player, and that's something the Sixers will have to work through with him. But he plays a lot of basketball in the regular season and in the playoffs. He plays a lot of games. He plays a lot of minutes. On this particular Sixers team, for this particular Philadelphia fan base, I think that is going to be really key because people here are just so fatigued with the constant availability issues. It's paramount with Embiid more than anybody else, but even with Paul George as well.
And I'll tell you this, just coming from somebody who's watched him, Jaylen Brown shows up. Jaylen Brown plays. That is not an issue with him. You mentioned the excitement in the roster they've built. There could be one more piece. Some reporting last night that the Sixers are now expressing interest in LeBron James. It's probably going to be his last year. He wants a chance to win. It's been reported he's willing to take less money, which obviously would have to happen in Philly. But are you buying into any of that smoke? Could we see them add LeBron James to what they've already built?
I certainly buy the reporting that they're interested in trying to make a pitch to LeBron James. I think, first of all, it's well documented. LeBron James and Tyrese Maxey have a very good relationship. They're both Clutch Sports clients. Brian Windhorst from ESPN almost described Maxey as like part of LeBron's extended family. Ironically, Maxey grew up a big Dwayne Wade fan, and now he is incredibly close with LeBron James. VJ Edgecombe, growing up in the Bahamas, they always played Heat games, in part because of how close they were to Miami, and he grew up a fan of those teams. And I think it would be really interesting to see, VJ Edgecombe, who was not yet born when LeBron came into the NBA, a dynamic like that. I think it's also worth noting Mike Gansey, who took over for Daryl Morey as Sixers president of basketball operations this offseason, he spent his time with the Cleveland Cavaliers before he came here to Philadelphia. He was part of the front office that won the 2016 NBA Finals, a team that obviously was led by LeBron James. And they know each other quite well. They have for a long time. Mike Gansey came in second in Ohio Mr. Basketball as a high school player behind LeBron James in 2001. There are a lot of connections, and it's interesting, and I understand how people can connect from point A to point B. I'd still be really surprised if it happened. I think he's either going to go back to Cleveland or he's going to go team up with Steph Curry and Draymond Green and maybe Anthony Davis in Golden State. But the fact that the Sixers are even potentially could get their foot in the door on these LeBron James conversations is pretty stunning, given what the state of the team seemed to be 36 hours ago when they were running back a team that most people in Philadelphia were not remotely enthused about, and the changes were really going to be, Kelly Oubre and Quentin Grimes turned into Dean Wade. Now all of a sudden it's a much more compelling roster.
Seismic shift in the league, and it's all happening in Philadelphia. Adam Aronson, again, Sixers writer. You can find him on social media at Sixers Adam. Adam, thanks so much for taking the time to join us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Alex. I appreciate it.
So there you go, Skaz. Maybe no LeBron James to the Sixers, as I keep saying, and I think is annoying you and others. I see you guys lining up on the phones. I know we did a couple of guests there kind of back to back. So if you guys want a chance to react, now's the time. 617-779-0985. We'll go right to your phone calls next. But first, a check of the Sports Hub headlines.
Sports Hub headlines.
Jaylen Brown, of course, traded last night from the Celtics to the Sixers for Paul George, 2 first and 2 second-round picks. Reporting today indicating the Celtics initially asked for 4 to 5 first-round picks from the Sixers, as well as rookie guard VJ Edgecombe. Obviously, the price came down over time. Celtics did make another roster move today. They've officially signed center Amari Williams to a 2-way contract. Major League Baseball handing down some suspensions from that benches clearing incident at Fenway Park between the Red Sox and Nationals earlier this week. The Red Sox will lose Wilson Contreras for 7 games and Nate Eaton for 3. Meanwhile, Nats starting pitcher Cade Cavalli, who was in the center of that, he also gets 7 games. This comes on an off day for the Red Sox. They begin a series on the road against the Los Angeles Angels tomorrow. And at the World Cup, more late drama in the round of 32. Portugal scoring in the 68th minute. That was a Ronaldo penalty kick. And then Goncalo Ramos in extra time, 90+4 for a 2-1 win over Croatia. So Portugal is through. One more match to come tonight. Switzerland takes on Algeria. That one kicks off at 11 o'clock. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by DN Van Lines. Take the chance out of your move and make the sure bet with DN Van Lines, an approved mover of the Department of Defense. DNVanlines.com. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 10 o'clock.
More Joe Murray coming up on the Sports Hub.
the AAU game way back in the day.
Oh,
and,
maybe, yeah.
To the picture of them, winning the guy. I think people do. It gets lost how close they were because of the media and obviously us. We do our part in that as well, but. I mean, anything you actually read, they were extremely close. Jaylen babysat Deuce, or his family members babysat Deuce when Deuce was, an infant and newborn. So I think Tatum will release something. Obviously, I don't think he has any hard feelings or anything. And for the people that say if Jason Tatum wanted Jaylen Brown on this roster, he would still be here, I think that's partially true. But I think this was a Brad Stevens directive. And I don't know how
more so than ownership.
Yeah, I think it was Brad Stevens number one. I think this was his move.
Well, we got some sound on Jaylen Brown that might clarify that again. We'll play that in a little bit. We're getting it cut up. But first, let's go to Tom in the car. Tom.
Alex, thanks for being on, man. And Skaz, big fan. You guys are crushing it every night. So
appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it feels like the Celtics kind of fell apart overnight. But I don't know if you guys remember when Al Horford had those cryptic messages and when he got interviewed after he left the Celtics, and he said that he would get to it another time. I know he might have answered some of those questions, but it kind of feels like this has been behind the scenes for a little while. And I just wonder, what kind of cracks behind the scenes were happening with this team. And Horford obviously saw the championship team get dismantled. But then you got to think, he probably had an idea of what was the plan here, and maybe Jaylen was gone no matter what, and he knew this a year before. So I just wonder, what was really going on? Because this went from the most functional organization to the most dysfunctional organization in 24 hours, it seems. So I appreciate you guys being on. So have a great night.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, the last 24 hours, the last 2 years, whatever you want to call it. We might never know. I don't know how much more Jaylen Brown is going to talk about this after the stream. Now, when I say that, I mean before they play the Celtics, I'm sure there'll be a lot of him in the media, but do you ever think he's really going to spill the whole
I don't
situation?
think he knows, Barth.
He might not know.
That was kind of one of my big takeaways from the stream is you hear him almost, and we'll play it. We have it almost pleading.
We can just start playing some of the stuff now.
Here, I'll play it for you right now.
Go for it.
I wasn't thrilled with how the conversation was facilitated. I did feel like it was a lack of respect. At one point it was fine, and out of nowhere it just went left. I definitely think it's more to it. It definitely is more to it. I know Brad is getting a lot of the criticism, but I just wish the more to it could have been explained. I just wish that they had the respect to just tell me what it was, and I would have understood and I would have respected that.
As the person,
but it didn't go down like that. It wasn't facilitated like that. So that was the most disappointing part, because I thought I earned respect in a place that I have built, where I helped contribute to build, and that just wasn't the case. It just wasn't the case. So sometimes it'd be like that,
To quote the person who normally sits in this chair. Something smells there.
Well,
the more to it, and then Brad's getting some of the blame, but there's more to it. Who did he mean?
Well, to me, I think you're almost doing Brad Stevens a little bit of a favor there, insinuating that, there is a directive from ownership, but they saved $3 million, Barth. It's not like they saved $30 million. They saved $3 million.
What's the incentive for him to do Brad Stevens a favor there if he's pissed at him?
Well, see, that's the thing. I think he's being intentionally vague because I don't think he knows.
So it could be, and maybe that's something. Well, because ownership's not going to come to him and say, we're going to trade you because we don't want to pay you.
But go back
here's what it maybe is with him specifically. It's not the $3 million this year. It's the $141 million that would have kicked in with the extension. And him knowing he wasn't going to get that. And maybe he doesn't think Brad didn't want to give it to him. Maybe he thinks ownership was the one that didn't want to give it to him.
And maybe that is his thought, but Brad Stevens was not giving him that extension, I don't believe. I think if they wanted to smooth things over with Jaylen Brown and wanted Jaylen Brown to be here, that's the only way they could have done it after all this, is to have, extended that olive branch of the extension. But getting back to kind of the caller's original point there, where Al Horford leaves and he has some cryptic messages about, how things went down, and I'll tell you in the future.
I think Marcus Smart did too, right?
A little bit. And, that was
parting shot.
Tough to kind of judge because it is Smart, and he did a lot of, kicking and screaming at times when he was here. And then you get this from Jaylen. I wonder, we go after other front offices in town for how they communicate to the players, and maybe Brad Stevens has a little bit of an issue with that, or if it's Mike Zarin, or if it's somebody else in there where their messaging is not as clear as they think it is, and their directive maybe isn't as clear as they think it is,
or they don't care. I will say this.
That's possible too.
We're all talking about, in the last 36 hours, I think a popular talking point has been the Red Soxification of the Celtics. And a lot of that comes from ownership and willing to spend in private equity and things like that. But there's also the analytics angle. You yourself talked earlier about how the Celtics are becoming so much more analytically driven. A lot of these analytically driven organizations have problems communicating with players on a human level because they see the players as assets, as items on a spreadsheet, and not as human beings. That has been a tremendously terrible problem for the Boston Red Sox. There are absolutely parallels here to what happened with the Rafael Devers trade last year in terms of what led up to it. A big part of that problem, granted on both sides, but we also know Jaylen can rub people the wrong way. The Red Sox and Rafael Devers' failure in communication is part of what led to that breakup. The two sides could not get on the same page to handle something that objectively was a lot simpler than they made it. And if the Celtics are going to be analytically driven, as what comes with these analytically dominant organizations, is player communication going to be a problem? Because as Bobby Krivitsky said earlier, the Celtics in doing this have probably damaged themselves in the eyes of the players as a whole in the league. And having issues with communication is only going to make that worse. That should be a legitimate worry. Whether it's ownership cutting money, whether it's analytics, we saw this is a big part of the problem with the Red Sox. They don't communicate right. And it started with the players, and it became to a point where they don't communicate right with anybody. Remember what happened with Alex Bregman and his contract, and they couldn't communicate with his agents right. And they don't negotiate trades well with other teams. There's another similarity. And Bill Simmons doubled down on this today. This is something I think got swept under the rug in the whole Giannis thing. Not swept under the rug, but did not get talked about as much as it should have. The Celtics did not negotiate with the Bucks in trading for Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Celtics put their offer on the table and said, take it or leave it. That is not how you negotiate a trade in professional sports. There has to be some back and forth. Apparently, they're willing to do with the Sixers and take less than half of what they were asking for, but they didn't negotiate with the Heat. That is very Red Sox-esque. In the whatever, and maybe it's not a spending thing, maybe it's not a finances thing. And I guess, did Al Horford leave under this leadership or no? This ownership? Yeah, he did. Maybe there's a communication issue that's been brought into the organization with the players, with other teams, with agents all around. That should be concerning. That is straight out of the Red Sox playbook. 617-779-0985. You want to weigh in on it. We've done a lot of complaining about the Celtics tonight. It is time for musings. We'll complain about something else, then we'll get back to the Celtics. Plus your calls, 617-779-0985. Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
Don't go anywhere. There's more Joe Murray. On the way.
take. Murray's got all sorts on stuff in the world unrelated to sports. So sit back, relax, and get your mind in the game and listen to the words of a grown man.
Yeah. I don't want to sound too into it after what Felger Maz had to say yesterday, but
a lot of penis talk.
It was on Maz's Tears, the guys that, and I'm not one of these, the guys that go over the border to get the fireworks. I enjoy watching the fireworks. I'm not a big shooting off of fire. I've just never gotten around to it.
Yeah, take it or leave it for me. If I see some, great. If I didn't see any on the 4th, I probably wouldn't even think about it. What about like a bonfire? I heard that was a big topic of discussion on the midday this week.
Oh, I love a bonfire. I love a good, but even if you just do like the fire pit, remember those like copper fire pits? Your parents have one in the backyard. Yeah.
My question with the bonfire, as a man who didn't grow up on or really near the beach, is who does the cleanup when all those pallets are burned? Because that's a lot of nails. As a guy who used to work on construction sites,
I never thought of that.
Like who's cleaning that up after? Is there a giant magnet they're bringing out there? Or
usually the fire department.
Okay, I'm in on.
Is it possible they take you're talking about like the big bonfire?
Yeah, like on the beach, like a town barn. They got 20 pallets stacked up.
Yeah, so Nantasket, my parents live out there, does a huge one for Thanksgiving. They do a big bonfire on Thanksgiving. It's pretty cool. But it almost looks more like scrap wood. I wonder if they take the nails out before.
That would be smart. That was always my question as a a neutral observer there.
I think that's fair. 4th of July, yeah, I'd say 4th of July bonfire fireworks. Like fireworks are so much better. The cool thing, like where I go on Nantasket, because it sticks out into the harbor a little bit, or into the bay.
You buy the carousel over there? Where are you?
Yeah, a little further down. But yeah, but you can see like 7 different towns' fireworks all at once, just going all around Boston. When I was growing up, the big day was the 3rd. So our town used the company that does the Boston fireworks, and we were essentially their warm-up. So I grew up thinking the 3rd was the big day. It's only in like the last 10 years. And I mean, we would do something on the 4th. Excuse me. But usually the 4th was like recovering on from the 3rd. Even when we were little, like we'd be up super late and we were running around all day, whatever, usually at a sunburn. But now I'm getting into it like, tomorrow's the 3rd, and to me that's like a big major holiday. And it's nothing, going golfing, whatever, after the radio, whatever, but the 4th being the day. I grew up with the 3rd being the day, but I think that is a Massachusetts thing. I know some other people who have done that.
Yeah, and I also think the Friday, Saturday helps. People are going to be getting after it.
I mean, this is great.
This weekend. Yeah, whether it's going to be a scorcher out there, Barth. It's going to be a hot one. What is Alex Barth's ideal 4th of July cookout plate?
Ooh, well, so I thought you were going to say ideal 4th of July. I will say this. I am in on the hot dog eating contest. In.
There's a rumor Joe Murray may be doing a hot dog eating contest tomorrow.
Hot dog or wings?
Well, I believe he's competing against Joey Chestnut in the near future over at Kowloon, I believe.
We just played the spot for that.
But tomorrow, I believe there's a potential for a Joe Murray hot dog eating contest. Now, whether it will be here or on Nesson, I'm not sure, but I've heard murmurings.
Have you ever done a hot dog eating contest?
No, I'm not a speed eater.
We did one when we were kids. It was just first to finish 2 hot dogs.
Which probably took like 3 minutes, I would imagine, at least.
Yeah, about that.
I feel like it's
with the buns.
You're not as fast as you think you are.
No. You start chewing it and you realize how much hot dog you have in your mouth. But what's my ideal plate? I'm actually not a huge hot dog guy. I'll go burger, couple steak tips. My buddy's dad usually brings us steak tips. Or wings to start it off. I'll make wings. Wings start it off, then we'll go burger, steak tips, coleslaw. My mom makes these like sesame peanut noodles that are really good. I think that's pretty much it. What am I missing? I'm not a big corn on the cob guy.
Not a corn on the cob.
I like corn, but not corn on the cob.
Macaroni salad, pasta salad.
More of a coleslaw guy.
Okay.
In that, and maybe a little cornbread. Sometimes sometimes somebody brings cornbread. Where I am with the hot dogs is, so we'll get back from the beach, eat, like do the barbecue, eat, go back down for fireworks. Usually coming up at like 11 o'clock. Been down on the beach, having some drinks, watching the fireworks. That's when I throw the hot dogs on the grill and finish out the night with hot dog. Well done.
A little nightcap hot dog.
I want a little snap on the hot dog. Yes, nightcap hot dog on the 4th of July. Trust me, the move. But you got to freshly grill it. Leftover hot dogs are nasty. You got to get the grill going again. My dad just got a new grill. I'm very excited.
Nothing more dad than getting a new grill.
And he got the same one of the model that he had.
Of course.
Which I think he'd had since I was in high school. And it still works. It's a good grill.
It's like my dad has just pairs of the shoes he wears, just new ones in his closet, just like on deck.
Oh, my dad has 2 pairs of the same set of shoes.
Yeah, just in case. You never know. Might just stop making them one day.
I mean, admittedly, I've been guilty of that. I have done that with a few. I'm trying to think of like the latest example I have.
Like a T-shirt I really like. I'm trying to think if I bought like an extra one.
Actually, this shirt, I had another version of this shirt and it got too ratty, and this is my first time wearing it. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's a cheap shirt, but I bought the same version of the shirt. Yeah, there's probably a couple other examples. I've actually done that with a car. I leased a car and I liked it. When I went back, I was like, I just get the same car? And they were like, yeah. What?
You're going to want to take this call.
I'm going to want to take this call. Oh, boy. Here we go. Am I good to go? Am I good? Scott and Rentham, what do you got?
What's up, bartender?
What's up, Scott? What's up, Zoe?
What do you think of that big trade today? Or yesterday?
Yes, I hated it. We spent the last 3 hours ripping into him for it.
Oh, I bet Skaz loves it.
Skaz, this morning in our Slack, said he was starting to come around on it. I was very surprised.
What's up, Skaz?
What's up, Zoe?
You ready for that Philly game? We can't wait, man.
I mean, it should be an interesting one, that's for sure. You going to buy a Jaylen Brown jersey or what?
Oh, hell yeah. I hope he wears number 7 there. They get his number yet?
No, what are those throwbacks? You got to get the throwback if you're going to get a Sixers jersey.
Oh, gorgeous. The Barkley ones. Hey, Barth, what do you mean you cook hot dogs during fireworks?
After fireworks.
At 11 o'clock?
Yeah, 10:30, 11, get back up to the house, throw the grill on.
You're an animal.
I'm either beach or grill on the 4th of July. I'm by the beach or I'm by the grill.
Sounds good. We're heading to the Cape right now. Beat the traffic.
What's going on the plate? What's going on the plate on Saturdays, though?
Ooh, well, I'm going to wake.
We lose them?
Hey, hold it like a pizza. Unbelievable.
And I like throwing cabbage. I like cabbage steaks on the grill.
Cabbage? I said I'm a coleslaw guy, so I'm with you on that.
Oh, I love coleslaw. I can have coleslaw.
Good coleslaw holiday.
All right, good talk tonight, guys. Happy 4th, everybody.
Happy 4th, though. Enjoy the Cape. You and yours. Yeah, I'll throw hot dogs on. I'll go back up to the house and throw a hot dog on the grill at 11 o'clock. I'm not the only one. Other people will be like, yeah, if you're making them, I'll have one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nightcap hot dog. Nightcap hot dog. I'll open my last drink, get the hot dog on the grill, and then either go sit on the porch or go inside, watch TV. Usually there's a good movie on at night. 4th of July. Con Air's always on the 4th of July for some reason.
We were talking about a little bit of this, earlier in the week. But 4th of July movie is like Jaws, I feel like Jurassic Park.
All right, you want to do this on the other side? Because I could do a full thing on this.
Absolutely.
617-779-0985. You want to weigh in on it. 1 hour to go. Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub. Just these headlines, no commercials, and we're back.
Dutcher and Hardy, Owen Beetle, Felger and Maz, the Bruins, the Celtics, the Pats, the Revolution. This is Boston's home for sports. WBC FM at HD Boston, 98.5, the Sports Hub, a Beasley Media Group station. Sports Hub headlines.
Still the aftermath coming out about the Celtics trading Jaylen Brown to the Sixers. It was Paul George, 2 firsts and 2 seconds coming back. Could have been more. Reporting today indicated the Celtics initially asked for 4 to 5 first-round picks, as well as rookie guard VJ Edgecombe. In another move today, the Celtics signed center Amari Williams to a 2-way contract. Suspensions coming for Major League Baseball for the scuffle at Fenway Park the other night. The Red Sox will lose Wilson Contreras for 7 games, Nate Eaton for 3. Nats starting pitcher Cade Cavalli also got 7 games. This comes on an off day for the Sox. They visit the Angels for a series starting tomorrow. And in the World Cup, 2 games final, 1 to go today. Spain beat Austria 3-0, and Portugal scored in extra time to beat Croatia 2-1. Coming up tonight, Switzerland takes on Algeria. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Safety Insurance, providing comprehensive coverage for your auto, home, and business. Ask your independent agent about safety. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 10:30.
Listen to it, laugh at it, get mad at it, agree with it, argue about it. It Boston Sports. Boston Sports. And it is all we do. 98.5, the Sports Hub.
Joe Show, no Joe. Alex Barth in tonight. We're sending Skaz off to 4th of July weekend the right way. This is his last shift. And as I was just saying, I enjoy the way I usually end my 4th of July. Come back up from the fireworks, come back up from the beach, throw the grill on, little nightcap hot dog, maybe if there's some hamburgers left over, very simple. And then if it's nice, I'll sit out on the porch. If it's getting a little chilly or I just want to lie down, I'll sit down and watch a movie. The last few years, Con Air has been on 4th of July. I don't know. I know different people feel different ways about the so bad it's good kind of movie. I love movies where it's so bad it's good. Con Air, up there in that genre. Fantastic movie to watch when you're just trying to wind down at the end of the day. Ridiculous plot, excellent cast, over the top, just effects. It's like typical 90s action movie. So that's my go-to 4th of July movie. But Skaz, you have some others? And I'll throw this in as well, because it is usually on. Top Gun is another good 4th of July movie.
Top Gun does feel like one. This is one we've mentioned all week, but shout out Jake Seymour chiming in. The Sandlot, we get to play under the lights one night a year. The fireworks light up the sky. I think that's kind of a classic. I just feel like those Independence Day,
Independence Day is a good
summer
one.
blockbusters. Terminator 2 for some reason feels like a 4th of July movie.
I feel like Independence Day and Sandlot are in a different category because they're literally
4th of July.
Right, they're about the 4th of July, whereas like some of these other movies just kind of feel like the vibe.
Yes, yeah. Jaws is just kind of a summer movie in general.
Well, no, that one's about 4th of July too.
The beaches will be open, yeah. So yes. And hopefully, I don't know if you saw what's going on the North Shore with all the sewage.
They had one of the mayors on the other night, and he was like, I never wanted to be the mayor from Jaws, but here we are.
Here we are. So I know Joe Murray is headed that way for the 4th. So for him and all our friends on the North Shore, I hope that sewerage doesn't make it out there too far.
Yeah, no, hopefully not. What are your other 4th of July movies?
I'm trying to think here. Con Air's a great one. Long hair, Nicolas Cage.
So what are you going to do?
Not?
I'm going to save the frickin' day. So good. So stupid.
I'm trying to, National Treasure, does that count?
Yeah, that's a good one.
The Patriot, now we're just getting, patriotic.
Now you're doing, so there's Team America World Police.
A classic, a very, very good movie.
The song will be played.
Does Forrest Gump count?
Forrest Gump, so yeah, I could. That's kind of like that's a little. I think you need a little more up, because you're trying to wind down the day, but if you're trying to straight up fall asleep. And I'm not saying Forrest Gump's a bad movie, but at the end of the day, part of what's good about Con Air is there's action, so you can relax, but also keeps you awake. You know what I mean? So the Forrest Gump maybe a little bit, but I'm trying to think what else. Independence Day is a good one. Armageddon. I think I said Armageddon.
Yeah, Apollo. Any of those movies I feel like could count.
Oh, Apollo's a good one. Apollo's a good one for the 4th of July. 617-779-0985. Are we going back to Scott and Rentham? Let's find out here in a second if you want to weigh in on your favorite movie. So am I just on in the Zolak car right now? Is that what's going on? I do want this movie take from Zoe, though. I'm assuming it's a movie take. We doing it? No, he hung up.
He said The Sandlot.
Yeah, The Sandlot is a great one. But that is about the 4th of July. Maybe I will watch Sandlot this year. I should see. You can look ahead. I should see what movies are on after the 4th. But no, that's the routine. The day starts by watching the hot dog eating contest, ends by watching a bad movie. That's actually not true. I'll go out for breakfast in the morning. But how's this for Skaz? We were talking about dad moves earlier. So again, my parents live on the beach in Nantasket, a block off, but you can walk down to the beach. On the 4th of July, my dad gets up at 8 o'clock and goes down to the beach and sets up the umbrella and all the chairs to make sure he gets a spot. But 3 hours before anybody shows up. And then he'll just sit down there waiting for other people to come down so he can go back up to the house and get ready. Because he wants to make sure that the stuff that we don't lose our spot. And he gets a good spot. Credit to him, he gets a good spot, but he's down there bright and early. You're not beating my dad to the beach on the 4th of July.
That's an ultimate dad move, right?
You're not, but I respect it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're up, why not?
And that's the thing. He usually asks me to go with him. I'm not getting up that early.
No, certainly not.
But he gets us a good spot every year. Right on the tee. He knows right where the tide line is, so we don't have to move. It's a good try. It's going to be a good beach day this year. I'm excited. This is a big beach guy. All right, let's grab a couple of these calls. Ken in the car on the Jaylen Brown trade.
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. You guys are great, obviously.
Thank you.
You and Skaz and Alex. Yeah, no problem. I just want to get back to the JB trade.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that there's a chance that Paul George will get flipped in the near future, maybe during the season, for some kind of, I don't even know what to say, maybe another big man to go with Mitchell Robinson or another scorer? I just wanted you guys' thoughts, because he's aging at 36, and he's not the same player he was 10 or 12 years ago with OKC and the Pacers. So I just wanted you guys' thoughts. Happy 4th to the both of you and your families.
Thank you very much, Ken. I appreciate it. Could Paul George get traded? Yeah. Is he going to get traded for anything worth it? No.
Give me just a little nugget on this from Derek Olson, our intern here. Paul George in his post, zero mention of Boston.
I did. So I saw somebody say that. I didn't know if it was real.
Yes. So Jaylen Brown went out of his way to thank Boston and mention that he's moving on to Philly.
Although
and
I
ready
did see
for
he
the
did not mention
process
Jason Tatum in the stream.
No, he didn't. But I would imagine that's coming.
Yeah.
But no mention whatsoever of Boston from Paul George, which is interesting, if not anything else. I'll get the sniffer out on that.
Well,
Barth.
I'll get the sniffer out on that.
I think the date is July. It's either the 6th or the 8th.
It's the 8th. I think I heard the 8th.
I think it's July 8th. They would have to move Paul George. After that date, it becomes much more difficult.
Jake Fisher reported today the Celtics is probably going to have to attach a pick to move Paul George. Do they move him? Maybe. Do they get a real asset, something that's going to help them win now? No, I doubt it. Another big event this weekend, Skaz. I'm kind of surprised this didn't end up on In or Out. Georgia in Somerville wants to talk about the other big event this weekend. Georgia, how we doing?
Hey, Alex. How's it going?
It's going good. What do you got?
So just wanted to talk about the upcoming nuptials and how exciting it is. And I guess my hot take is it already happened about a month ago. And
you're talking about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
Oh, obviously. Yeah.
Wait, they already got married?
Yeah. That's what, my reports are saying. They got married privately about a month ago. And there is a party at MSG, but the actual wedding happened already.
So she's just ruining everyone's 4th of July and their commutes in downtown New York just to throw a party?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Don't you think it's kind of tacky to do it at Madison Square Garden?
No. I mean, that's in true Taylor fashion,
Not like
I fear.
a beautiful real place like outside.
Well, it sounds like they
something.
already did that. When do you think we find out that they've actually been married this long?
We may never find out. I don't know. If we're lucky, maybe, but...
We need to hire her, Barth. You just give a scoop that you can never find out if it's real or not. I'm in on that.
Hey, look at what all these NBA reporters are doing for the last 3 days. That's all it's been. Georgia, what do you have on Jaylen Brown? Why did the Celtics trade him? Who are we blaming?
I also have a hot take there. It is not a popular one. It's fine. It's going to be fine. And I personally didn't love his attitude this season. I'll leave it at that. And I think it's going to be fine. See you later. And it's all good.
All right, some hot takes. George in Somerville, thanks for the call. How do you feel about that, Skaz?
Scorching from George over there. I mean, that's probably the most positive Celtics take we've gotten tonight. Maybe far and away.
It's going to be fine, I guess. And Taylor Swift got married a month ago.
Now, why? Why a month ago? That's what I want to know.
So that it didn't become a circus, I guess?
Because I'm sure it's not going to be a circus at all this weekend.
No.
No, not at Madison Square Garden, where everyone knows exactly when and where it's happening.
Except it's not happening.
For that. No, I guess
maybe you leak that it happened a month ago, so people aren't as inclined to go to Madison Square Garden.
What a time! What a world!
What a world! What a think about it. You get a picture of that; it's going to be worth how much money? If you're a paparazzi, this is your Super Bowl. You got to figure out a way.
TMZ's got to have somebody in there.
We're going to hit a break. We'll come back. There is one more, I know we usually kind of screw around in the 10 o'clock hour. Hey, Skaz, he was a hoops guy. There is one more thing I want to ask you. I asked Bobby Krivitsky earlier, but I think it's a fun conversation about the Celtics. If you guys want to call in some more, 617-779-0985. We'll get back to it. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.1.
taking you up to 11 o'clock. You want to join 617-779-0985. I teased we were going to talk about big picture NBA topic. We'll get to that in a bit. But you guys are kind enough to call in. I don't want to make you wait too long. Eric in Plymouth has a thought on Jaylen Brown. Eric.
Yeah, I just wanted to say real quick. Now, the way I look at it is I was happy when they didn't get Giannis because I never looked at him as anyone that wanted to take a team anywhere. And as long as Brown and Tatum played together, both of them were afraid to play alpha. They both would just sit back and let the other one try to do it. Now, hopefully with them both being on different teams, both of them can step up. And the whole Paul George thing is he doesn't want to be an alpha. He just wants to sit there and snipe off the corners, which is kind of what they need more now that Brown's gone, is just an extra shot. And if Tatum can actually step up, then there shouldn't be an issue or any real drop-off as far as I can see.
But what about the long-term window? Like, Paul George is a declining player. Would you agree?
But if you kept Brown and Tatum together, the long term, I would have seen them both being content with just they won their ring, their brothers playing together, and neither one of them wanted to upset the other one. They're more worried about keeping everything in the cohesion of the team and all the rest of it than either one of them trying to ball out.
Fair enough.
And to the point that they're playing the team game just a little too much lately.
Yeah, I mean, I would disagree. Thanks to caller. I would disagree that especially Jaylen Brown was worried primarily about the team dynamic. But I guess we haven't really talked about this. This is the question it comes down to. And Skaz, I don't know if you said this last night, but I'll give you a chance to answer the question. Did the Celtics have it in them to win another title with Tatum and Brown together?
I think yes. I do think they needed, serious help around them, as every roster and team in the league does. Look at the New York Knicks. Look at the Celtics team that did win the title. Look at the OKC Thunder. Whoever you want to name, they've had an immense amount of talent. That's how you win in the NBA, and I still think that was possible with Tatum and Brown, but the Celtics didn't feel that way. And whether that was because of Jaylen Brown's contract or because of what their numbers under the hood tell them, I'm not entirely sure, but I would disagree with them on that sentiment. If that's the sentiment of could they win a title or not with Tatum and Brown, they've already shown us they can. So why would I feel differently?
I think they could have again.
Yeah,
they needed some help.
Absolutely,
for
who
sure.
Doesn't? Everyone in the NBA needs help. Everyone. It's one of the great fallacies in sports that guys in the NBA win alone. It's just not. It's not what happens, and guys don't succeed at a young age in that league either.
Dirk did it one time, and he's the anomaly, and that's the exception to the rule.
Yeah, and look up his free throws in that series. Not that he was getting an absurd amount of them, but he was like 99% or something.
Well, it's Dirk.
Yes, he took advantage of every minuscule little edge he could possibly give him.
Yeah, I still think they could have looked. They still needed the center, but they could have signed Mitchell Robinson and kept. When they signed Robinson, if they keep Brown, this is great.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's where a lot of Celtics fans were. You were starting to buy back in, and I think you could have sold that to Jaylen Brown. I think that's part of Jaylen Brown's almost confusion in his Twitch stream tonight, where he seems almost taken off guard by this.
Do we have any other? So the big notable clip, I think, was him bringing up Brad Stevens, then mentioning there was more to it.
I got one for you.
What else do we got?
Take a listen to this, Barth.
We would have reached this result personally, either way it goes. If I would have not gave any effort and let it be a throwaway year, probably would have got to the same result. And me showing up, leading us to a 2 seed, it would probably been the same result. So I think it was inevitable either way. The mind was already made up.
It was inevitable either way. Their mind was already made up before the season, no matter what happened.
I still think he's pointing the finger at ownership more so than Brad. And Brad's not immune in this.
I would say that quote certainly lends more to ownership, doesn't it?
And also, if that was the case, you trade him last year.
And if that was the case, all kudos in the world to Jaylen Brown, but do we get that Jaylen Brown last year if he feels that way at the beginning of the season?
He feels more comfortable?
Well, if I'm saying the Celtics sold it as Jaylen Brown's team. Now, they didn't give him any help, and I think that's another gripe he should have with the organization is they pretty much abandoned the season when he was their lead guy, and then they're abandoning him that offseason. But for him to say, no matter what I did this season, led the team, squandered it, whatever, basically, this was inevitable. I go to ownership, and I've been heavy that this was a Brad basketball-ish directive, but saying that this was inevitable feels as a money ownership type angle.
And because it also takes away from the idea that they traded him because of the analytics.
Yeah, inevitable feels like money.
Right. It feels like money. And again, then why wouldn't you do it last year and bottom out? This goes back to, again, I have three main questions about this. Three main questions about this trade. Why did they have to do it right now at this moment? And I mean this moment is in this offseason. Why not last offseason? Why not at the upcoming deadline? Why not next offseason? Why now? How does it impact Tatum's contention window? Which, again, if you trade Jaylen Brown last year and you bottom out, I don't know, Skaz. I don't know how you feel about the NBA lottery. I think we can get the sniffers out on that one. How would you feel if they made this trade last year, but I compared it, we've been comparing it to Luka trade, right? Well, what kind of makes the Luka trade a little bit okay? The Mavericks lucked out and got Cooper Flagg. Wouldn't this be a little easier to swallow if the Celtics traded Jaylen Brown last year, lucked out, and we were talking about a tandem of Tatum and Debansa?
Yeah, it would certainly feel a lot better than I do today, Barth. I'll tell you that.
Right? They'd be in a much better shot to build back up. And then again, the third part, if you couldn't flip Jaylen Brown for better than this, what makes you think the parts you got for him are going to be better? So if Jaylen felt it was inevitable, now look, we're going off of a guy that's just been spurred. And he's in no position to do the Celtics organization any favors. Frankly, I thought he was going to go a lot, and he would have had every right to go a lot more scorched earth than he did. Based on, you guys listen to the full thing. I'm kind of seeing the clips and following on Twitter, but I'd imagine if there was more explosive stuff, it would be posted. I'd see the quotes or something. Yeah, I thought he'd go more scorched earth. He's in no position to protect the Celtics. So you keep that in mind, but if this was always the plan, and I was against trading Jaylen Brown last year.
I give you another thing, too, that a big whiff by me. Zero mention of Joe Mazzulla at all by Jaylen Brown in that stream. Now, not that that's a surprise in any way by all the reporting.
Did he mention anybody by name outside of Brad?
Neemias Queta,
okay.
Luka Garza, I believe, but I think that may have. He just said the young guys, some of the young guys, Nimi, Luke guys I mentored have reached out to me. It was kind of something like that.
Okay, so kind of as a throwaway.
Yes, yeah. But zero mention of Joe Mazzulla whatsoever. So I'll be interested when those comments come out.
How hot's Joe Mazzulla's seat right now?
I think it should, to Celtics fans or to Celtics ownership?
In reality.
I don't think it's that hot, Barth.
That's disappointing.
Very disappointing. I think he should have been fired already.
I think he should have been fired 3 years ago. So you see where I'm coming from. But because if you're going to go with lesser than on the roster, you're asking the coach to compensate. So Joe Mazzulla, let's see. The system worked great when you had Tatum, Brown, Prime Porzingis. Drew Holiday was still good. Al Horford. System worked great with the super team. Systems tend to do that. Just ask Kyle Shanahan. Let's see it with a little less. And then let's see how it bears out. Let's see the system with a little less. And then let's see how it bears out. Interesting nugget, Skaz. No mentions of Joe Mazzulla. So we got Brad, and we got a couple of the younger guys that so he only mentioned the guys he mentored, which I think is very Jaylen Brown. But no Mazzulla, no Tatum. And again, can we play that quote about Brad Stevens one more time? Because it's big. I don't think we played it in this segment. We've referenced it a couple times. And he doesn't mention ownership. Sorry, he doesn't mention ownership, but I think he came close here and stopped himself. Go ahead.
I wasn't thrilled with how the conversation was facilitated. I did feel like it was a lack of respect. At one point, it was fine, and out of nowhere, it just went left. I definitely think it's more to it. It definitely is more to it. I know Brad is getting a lot of the criticism, but, I just wish the more to it could have been explained.
You can stop it there. He for whatever reason, again, he's in no position to do the Celtics any favors. He stops just short of bringing up, we'll call it management. Not necessarily ownership, but management, because there's clearly a problem with some with Brad in there too, and maybe ownership is having Brad pass down this message, and Brad couldn't pass it down properly because maybe it's something he didn't want to do. There's a lot going on there, but no mention of Joe Mazzulla is a good call. We got to get a check of the headlines. We'll come back on the other side. Keep talking Jaylen Brown or whatever you want. 617-779-0985. Alex Barth and for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
Sports Hub headlines.
They're still sorting through the Jaylen Brown trade. The Celtics sending him to the 49ers. It's late at night. The Celtics sending him to the 76ers last night for Paul George, 2 first and 2 second round picks. Reporting today indicated the Celtics actually wanted more. The initial it wasn't ultimately financially driven. You know, whether it was literally ownership saying, we do not want to pay this contract, pay this player, or it was the Celtics looking at the analytics and saying he does not give us enough for the resources we put into him, the money for what he takes up from the cap. The structure, the new structure of the NBA CBA, the salary cap, the luxury tax, the aprons, definitely plays a role here. The financial structure of the league is part of the reason Jaylen Brown is no longer a Celtic. And they put this in a couple years ago to prevent super teams, to basically prevent a redo of the Warriors and Kevin Durant joining that team and all of that, which, okay, you needed to do something there. I personally feel like they've gone too far. I don't think the salary cap should be high enough that you can actually build a team. And teams should be rewarded for drafting and developing. I don't know exactly what the difference would be. I'm not good enough at math, but I have to believe there's a way to do it. There's got to be a way to set up the cap that the Warriors, with prime Steph and prime Clay and prime Draymond Green, can't add a prime Kevin Durant. But at the same time, the Celtics can keep a 30-year-old Jaylen Brown with a 29-year-old Jason Tatum without there being these massive basketball penalties, which I know I hear it exist. I just don't care about them. The excuse I keep hearing is they prevent team building. The team was built, essentially. You just need to work on the margins. Brad Stevens' draft history suggests he could work on the margins and get that figured out. Especially if Ugo's going to be this good, right, that you can't trade Giannis for. I think the NBA is going in a bad direction in a lot of ways. Some significant, some not, but I think mean more to people than some others. Obviously, the big one, they've put so many of their games behind paywalls at this point that are hard to watch. I think the regular season has become too watered down when you have the number of teams that you do in the playoffs and the play-in tournament and all of that. I think there are issues. There's too much player movement. That goes along with it. Fans can't get attached to players. The load management thing, which they've tried to fix, which has kind of worked, kind of not. Even something as simple as the teams wear different jerseys every year. Wear the same jersey. Just have some level of familiarity that fans can tie in on. And I think this is going to be part of it. I don't think the in-season tournament is a weird thing. Like, I think Adam Silver is taking this weird tech bro approach, Silicon Valley approach to the NBA that just doesn't fully translate to sports. He wants to be European soccer. He wants to be cutting edge. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think the NBA at its core is a good league. And this cap just feels like one of those things that, and look, as Bobby Krivitsky said earlier when we talked to him about this, and he's right, Adam Silver works for the owners. The aprons and the tax work as an excuse that the owners can use so they don't have to pay too much player salary. And at the end of the day, what's it really there for? To save the owners money without them getting called out for being cheap. So, complaining about this might be a fool's errand. Sports at the end of the day are an entertainment industry. If you're trying to create the most entertaining product, I don't think the current NBA salary cap facilitates that. And that's something that, in theory, the league should look into, but they won't. But I just want that on the record. And that's not to take blame away from the Celtics. Because, again, you could power through the penalties if it is, in fact, financially related. Or you don't have to sell your soul to analytics, which, is, look at the Red Sox. So they're in their own right at fault here for plenty. But I do think there's something to be said for, this was one of the first major stress tests of the new NBA salary cap, and I think it made the league worse. Because if you have something like this happening every year, I don't think it's good. And I get Bobby, again, I go back to the Bobby Krivitsky interview because he covers the league closer than I do. You want to give all 30 teams a feeling that they have a chance, fine. But if that comes with all 30 teams also becoming disillusioned with the franchise for moving on with the superstar in a short period of time, that's not good. There's got to be some other way to do it. All 30 teams need to feel they have a chance. Correct. Not all 30 teams should be in a position to immediately become a contender at any point. The value in drafting and developing should still be there, and it should be rewarded. And under the current CBA, I do not believe that it is, at least not in the long term. In the short term, sure. In the long term, it is not. So that is something that I would very much like to see fixed, is the NBA cleaning up the salary cap. That's not going to happen anytime soon. It very well might not happen at all. But I'm Matt McCarthy talks about this a lot, and I'm with him, just like a health of the league thing. Like as a football fan, right? And as somebody that covers the Patriots, I want the NFL brand to be strong. Now, the NFL brand obviously is tremendously strong, and there's not a ton to worry about there, but they've made some decisions in the last couple of years that I think ultimately hurt the league as an entertainment product, or are going to make some decisions. When you talk about expanding the schedule to Wednesday nights, or, double headers in prime time, and going to 18 weeks, 20, like, it's a lot. It's a little bit of overload. That's something that I worry a little bit when it comes to the health of the league. I think if you're a fan of a sport, that is something that maybe it's not your primary concern, but it's something you should track. It's something you should be aware of. When you look at what happened to baseball after the steroid era, I mean, the league had to completely change in some ways for the worse before it got better. And as a baseball fan, that was an unfortunate time. That was not an easy time to be a fan of the sport. None of us should want that to happen to our sports. So there's some things that I worry about with the NBA and the way they've structured their salary cap. I think it could hurt the league in the long term. That was one thing I wanted to talk about tonight that we didn't get to. There are actually three. There's another Celtics-related one. Knowing what we know now, would you go back and do the Giannis trade, people who were opposed to it? Would you throw in Hugo Gonzalez? Would you throw in Baylor Shireman? Would you throw in those extra picks? Because I said at the time, the real cost of not doing that trade depended on what else happened with Jaylen Brown. If you flipped Jaylen Brown for, I don't know, a package better than they got, right? But like if you flip Jaylen Brown for, I'll even go like Jamal Murray. I like Jamal Murray. I think Jamal Murray's a good player. I think he'd be a really good fit in the system, right? Okay. Well, and then, multiple picks. All right. Well, that's not quite Giannis, but I think Jamal Murray helps. He's on the younger side. He gives you more of a runway. Okay. Like now, all right, you passed on Giannis. I think you made a comparable deal. I would rather have given up the extra picks and Ugo and Baylor than I would get the picks from the Sixers and Paul George, because it hurts their contention window. It hurts their contention window with Jason Tatum in his peak, and that's still what kills me. Skaz, I don't know if you feel any differently about this. If you could go back and tell Brad Stevens what's going to happen on the other side, do you think he would put more of his chips on the table for Giannis?
I think he would have tried, but I don't think they were getting Giannis. So I'm of that belief. I know it's unpopular, but
So you don't believe the Bill Simmons report today?
No, because I think it's been proven wrong by people that are closer to the Celtics than he is. Multiple people, reporters that are around the team have said that the Celtics would have, given Giannis that 35% that he was looking for and signed him for that extra year. So,
I think that was Noah Dalzell was first on that.
Yes.
You want to give the credit.
Yes, Noah Dalzell. I think a couple other people have also, kind of piggybacked that reporting. And so I think it's a nice story for Simmons. I think it's juicy, but I don't think Giannis was ever coming here. I don't think the Bucks viewed Jaylen Brown that highly. I don't think the NBA as a whole viewed Jaylen Brown that highly, and I think the Miami Heat had a much better package than you did.
The other thing I wanted to get to, and I know, Skaz, you had wanted to get to, U.S. men's national team is on to the round of 16 against Belgium, a Belgium team that had an unbelievable win against Senegal. I don't know if you saw any of that. They were down 2-0 in the 85th minute. They scored twice in, I think, like 4 minutes, twice in 5 minutes, and then won it in overtime. Flo Balogun, though, the Balogun, the U.S. striker, not going to play red card. Skaz, you know soccer better than me, but I've seen that play multiple times in this tournament.
Yeah, it's happened a handful of times.
I've seen it not even be a yellow card.
Yes, Messi did it, and obviously he's Messi, did not get a card for it. There have been other examples as well with players that don't, certainly have his profile that didn't get cards or at least, only got a yellow for it. A horrible call. That ref has been suspended before for match fixing, I believe. Allegedly, there's some
interesting
claims that ref has had some issues in the past. His name is also Juan Soto, I believe, which is just kind of a funny wrinkle there. I saw Frank the Tank very upset about that. Just added fuel to the fire there. But they have a chance against Belgium. It's kind of funny, from Chris Wondolowski and Tim Howard to now, Mauricio Pochettino and Christian Pulisic. This is where we are. Belgium is a legit top 10 team in the world, though. They have been, I would say, for most of my life, I would imagine. Kevin De Bruyne. They're a little older, Romelu Lukaku, but they have some stars still there. But this is a game that the absolutely the USA can win. Okay. No Balogun is huge, though.
So how much, where strategically, as somebody who does not really follow a ton of soccer, and I know Ricardo Pepe is, I don't know if backup is the right word, but next man up as the striker, how much of a drop-off is that? And strategically, this is the guy they're setting up. This is not necessarily the play creator. So how much of a drop-off is there? Yeah,
so that is a good point, and Christian Pulisic is their most creative player. That's who he is at Milan as well. He is an offensive, assist guy. That is, I would say, his MO. And you would like him to still be that. There have been some talks on, U.S. men's national Twitter that Pulisic may move up front. I like Tillman. I think, he can play. I'm a Haji Wright guy. He was very good for Coventry. They've been promoted to the Premier League. He was a large part of that this past year in the championship, getting them promoted. He's a 6'4", big body. He puts the ball in the back of the net, not, like Flo Balogun does, because the United States have never had anyone like that. We haven't really seen Haji Wright at all, so it's not going to be him. That's more of a pipe dream, but I do think it'll be Pepe. Maybe we see some Gio Reyna, and maybe they send Pulisic up top if things get desperate, and he's your striker. I think that's also a possibility.
Is it, again, Skaz is one of, not the soccer guy here at the Sports Hub, so you can answer this better than me. Is this a success for the U.S. men's national team already? If it ends here, do they need to win one more?
I think they need to win one more. I think it's not a failure. It's not a disappointment. Belgium is a legit team, but with how they've looked and how Belgium has looked in this tournament so far, I would say the USA should have the advantage.
So, and again, just to give some context on that, so the U.S. has never won, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the U.S. has never won more than one knockout stage game in a World Cup, and they've never been past the quarterfinals. I think they've only been to the quarterfinals once, right?
Well, they went to the semis in 1930, but it was the first year of the World Cup. So,
and the other difference this year is this is the first year of the round of 32. So usually this is where the knockout stage would start, in the round of 16.
Yeah, so they beat Mexico in 2002 of the round of 16 and then lost to Germany, and what a lot of people would say was their best performance ever. They got kind of porked in that game, if I remember correctly. And then obviously we remember the Chris Wondolowski miss against Belgium. Tim Howard sets the record for saves. But yeah, this is their best chance for sure. And then, if they win, Flo Balogun is back. You're riding that momentum. Anything can happen.
And Portugal has not looked particularly impressive, I would say, in this tournament.
Spain has, though.
Spain has. So if you get Spain, that's what I was going to get to, is you're rooting for Portugal here because I remember Portugal knocked them out, either knocked them out or maybe beat them in the group play.
That feels right.
They had a final game against Portugal that cost them. I don't remember if it was the end of group play that prevented them from advancing or if it was in the knockout stage. It might have been at the end of group play. Ronaldo scored late to kind of seal it. They needed a tie. Oh, so it must have been group stage. They needed a tie. Ronaldo scored late, and it was like, of course, they contained him the whole game. I remember watching that and being like, yeah, these two teams are playing two different sports. I've not been, to my untrained soccer eye, I have not been as impressed with Portugal. I do not feel they're the same as when I've watched them in past World Cups. That Spanish team is pretty good, though. I don't want any piece of them. So, weirder things have happened. I mean, Paraguay-Germany is a major upset, right? That's a pretty significant upset, so there's been a couple in this tournament. If you can get it done, but then they'll play France, and I mean France is just too good. They're not doing nobody. There's a real chance nobody beats France.
Yeah, they look. I mean, France-Argentina rematch, I think, is the dream.
Argentina tomorrow against one of my. I've been rooting for Cape Verde a little bit.
Great story.
Yeah,
probably get stomped.
Local connections. Yeah, that could end. That could end a little ugly, but. Yeah, it's been fun. I'm enjoying the tournament more than I thought I would, admittedly, and not even just because the U.S. has been good. There's been some really good, competitive, close games. Let's grab one call before we get out of here. John in Boston. John.
What's going on? We got Beantown in the city of champs over here in America with the country of champs, baby. We got USA on July 6th at 8 p.m. What you gonna do when the USA runs wild on Belgium over you?
Thanks for the call, John. That's probably a good way as any to end it, isn't it? Good energy going into the holiday weekend. Fun weekend coming up. I am not off yet, though. Skaz is already packing up. He's going to two-wheel out of here. He's on vacation. He deserves it. I'm happy for him. And he helped carry me tonight, especially at the end there, Skaz. I appreciate you. Great job, as always. And we've got, I should also mention, intern, I stink.